Chapter 376. Yi Fan arrived in front of the immortal tomb and carefully examined it. With a swoosh, a silver light flashed and he was about to swing the spirit blade. Suddenly, a great sense of danger appeared in his heart. A bone-chilling aura enveloped his body. He flew back like lightning with the immortal tomb. But nothing appeared. There was no danger and nothing unusual. Everything was quiet as usual. "What's wrong, little Yi?" Li Heishui transmitted with a nervous expression. "Nothing." Yi Fan shook his head and prepared to cut the stone again. Buzz! Yi Fan's eyes flickered with a purple light. His heaven origin divine instinct was alerted once again. He felt the threat of death looming over him once more. He moved lightly like an immortal and flashed to the side. What was going on? He was bewildered. Did those old things want to kill him? But he didn't feel any draconic energy rushing over. There were no earth veins or any openings. "What are you doing? Dancing with the immortal tomb? What a joke!" A young disciple from an ancient Genesis technique family mocked. Another disciple from a Genesis technique clan laughed heartily, mocking in front of everyone. "Why aren't you cutting the stone? It's like you're dancing with your grave, isn't it? Close your two rags tightly. Don't spit out anything." Li Heishui scolded. His words were equally annoying. You don't know what's good for you. Who can you blame for carrying a stone tomb?" Yi Fan ignored them. He stared at the immortal tomb and seriously pondered. Could it be that there was something inside that was releasing a terrifying killing intent that made him feel alarmed? When he thought of this problem, he shuddered. This was an extremely serious consequence. Could it be that there were living creatures in the immortal tomb? Moreover, it had already awakened and completely recovered. If so, there would most likely be a bloodbath and he would be the first to bear the brunt. Was it really that serious? Yi Fan placed the immortal tomb on the ground and carefully examined it with his origin divine instinct. To his surprise, there was no killing intent overflowing from inside. Instead, there were wisps of sacred aura circulating. At this time, a cloud floated past, blocking the sun and casting a shadow. He suddenly became vigilant and thought of something. Yi Fan raised his head and looked in the opposite direction. Nangong Qi and the other three old fellows were standing with their hands behind their backs. They had smiles on their faces and were staring at him motionlessly. Too vicious. Yi Fan's expression was very ugly, and it immediately sank. The other party had attacked him several times with the intention of exterminating him. He had only passively defended himself a few times, but they had become even more aggressive. If he hadn't learned the Origin Heaven book, possessed powerful Genesis techniques, and knew many ancient secret arts, as well as that flash of inspiration earlier, he would likely not even know how he had died. Nangong Qi and the others did not use Dragon Qi or Earth Veins. Instead, they used their aura to kill. This was an unparalleled secret technique of Genesis techniques that killed without leaving a trace. They were very particular about where they stood. They sealed the Heavenstone Gardens, heavenly power, and terrain. There were many strange stones here, so naturally, they were not weaker than the natural Dragon Vein's great power. The four of them used an ancient Genesis technique to guide the Dragon Vein's great power, preparing to launch a thunderous attack that would turn him into a pool of blood without him realizing it. Yi Fan was really angry. The four of them were very skilled in Genesis techniques, and even knew such a secret technique. However, their attacks were too vicious, and they had repeatedly tried to harm him. Can you do it or not? Admit defeat if you don't cut the immortal tomb. The young disciples of the ancient Genesis technique clan sneered and stared at Yi Fan with ridicule. Don't you think it's funny that you're walking back and forth, not daring to cut open the ancient tomb? Your clan's old man wants to kill me. How do you expect me to cut it? Yi Fan directly pointed out the reason in front of everyone. Moreover, he suddenly strode forward, quickly walking to a few key locations in the stone garden, and continuously triggered the great power of the Dragon Vein. The expressions of Nangong Qi and the others immediately changed. The four old fellows quickly left their original positions, and at the same time shouted to the nearby disciples, "Retreat!" Pooh! The expression of a Genesis technique disciple who was sneering at Yi Fan suddenly froze. His organs had been turned into a pool of blood by the great power of the dragon vein. Although his external organs were unharmed, his vitality was gone, and he fell to the ground. An uproar broke out inside and outside the stone garden. A Genesis technique could kill someone without them noticing. It was so terrifying. You're not the only ones who know ancient Genesis techniques. I also know them. If you want to kill someone, I'll play with you. Yi Fan showed no fear. He faced Nangong Qi and the others and said, "Do you still want to continue? I'll play with you to the end. I also have a great killing technique that I haven't used yet." The onlookers all retreated. A battle between Genesis technique masters was so terrifying that it could take someone's life unknowingly. People finally understood why even the great sage was helpless against the Yuan Taoist master when he dominated the world. Even if he didn't know the orthodox cultivation method, he still had astonishing means. The surviving disciples of the Genesis technique ancient clan rapidly retreated with pale faces. Nangong Qi and the others' expressions were ugly and cold. They didn't say anything. "You four old things joined hands to deal with Gu Feng. Don't you have any shame?" Li Heishui said angrily. "It doesn't matter. They can use all their means. I'll take them on." Yi Fan was very calm. He looked disdainfully at the four Genesis technique masters. Everyone was shocked. The young Genesis technique master had suppressed the Genesis technique clan. Everyone was dumbfounded. Yi Fan didn't continue to cut the immortal tomb. Instead, he began to arrange in the jade bamboo forest. "For everyone's safety, I'll isolate a pure land." There was life and death in a Genesis technique battle. The disciples of the ancient clan had long threatened to trample Yi Fan to death in the battle. Only now did everyone believe that it wasn't a provocation. At this moment, the Ji clan, Su Tianxiong and the great Xia emperor had finished carving the formation runes and placed the blood sacrificial altar in the center. "You can cut the stone." Red Dragon gestured to Nangong Qi. "Okay, then let me cut the stone first." Nangong Qi walked forward, but he didn't get close. Instead, he prepared to attack from a distance. The four grandmasters had already sensed that there was a goddess inside. He didn't want to be killed after waking her up. "Is this formation rune stable?" Some of the older generation felt uneasy. If the far ancient imperial family came out, it was very likely that there would be a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. The other runes might not work, but this rune is enough. This is the Dao rune law of the divine city's heavenly prison. It can detain all experts, a supreme elder of a sacred land said. The divine city existed with the world and could be traced back to the earliest human era. No one knew its true origin. The heavenly prison it possessed was unimaginable. Even top experts would find it difficult to escape if they were trapped inside. Therefore, the three holy masters weren't too worried. "Kacha!" Nangong Qi waved his blade in the air. The silver light was like a waterfall, dancing in the air. It was very agile, like a dancing dragon. And at this moment, a strong aura rushed out. Even those who didn't understand Genesis techniques felt their hearts palpitate. They felt a pressure. The aura of the absolute beginning. Any cultivator who had some understanding of origin stones knew that this was the unique aura of the absolute beginning. It was many times stronger than what they had seen in the past. People even suspected that this stone came from the origin ancient mine. Stone fragments rustled down. The horrifying aura became stronger and stronger. Many people couldn't help but tremble, as if they were already inside the absolute beginning forbidden land. It's just a stone, so why is it giving off such a terrifying feeling? Could it really be a bloodstone that flowed out from the origin ancient mine? Many of the older generation asked the people from the Alcade Stone Square how far the divine temple was from the origin ancient mine and how they transported the blood sacrificial altar. The people from the Alcade Stone Square all had numb expressions. No one replied. They had cut open 6 pieces of bloodstone and hadn't obtained anything. They didn't think that this leftover material would bring out the goddess. Put on. A large piece of stone fell to the ground. A third of the blood sacrificial altar had been cut open. Unknowingly, an incomparably dense killing intent seeped out from the stone. The creature inside was not like a goddess, but rather like a peerless demon. People couldn't help but tremble. Many people with weaker cultivations were scared witless. Back off. It's better not to watch this kind of show. Many people were alarmed and chose to retreat. There were even some people who directly left the stone garden, not daring to stay any longer. This isn't some world-shocking treasure. If an archaic king appeared, there would be millions of corpses and rivers of blood. Preserving one's life is the most important thing. There were some people who were extremely cautious. They resisted their curiosity and impulsiveness and truly left. However, most people didn't leave. They wanted to personally witness a miracle. They had confidence in the divine city's heavenly prison and the methods of the divine masters. Another large piece of stone fell here. A bone-piercing killing intent rushed out, making everyone shiver from head to toe. They couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. At this moment, even Nangong Chi's blade felt sluggish. He also developed a sense of fear. The killing intent had already seeped into his bones. Gotcha! This time, his blade wasn't steady, and a thick layer of stone fell off. A heaven-shocking killing intent rushed out. Nangong Chi staggered backwards, almost sitting on the ground. Outside, many people's calves and stomachs cramped. Many people with weaker cultivations couldn't stand steadily and fell to the ground. No one laughed because everyone was enveloped by the killing intent. Cold air rose from their bodies, and even the fine hairs on their bodies stood up. Gotcha! It wasn't Nangong Chi who attacked, but the blood sacrificial altar itself. A piece of stone fell off, and a crazy killing intent surged out like a tsunami. It made the heaven and earth tremble. A rusty spear. An archaic war spear. It was incomparably oppressive. Many people were trembling and extremely nervous. They retreated, and there were even some people who fell to the ground with goosebumps all over their bodies. There was a spear within the stone that was scarlet like blood. It was covered in rust and seemed to be on the verge of decay. However, it was incomparably awe-inspiring and possessed a heaven-shocking killing intent. The aura that made people tremble and the source of fear all originated from it. The blood-stained spear represented destruction and death. It wasn't sharp and had no luster. The passage of time had almost obliterated it, but its killing intent didn't diminish. Its body was about to decay, but the endless killing intent would never disappear. It contained an aura that made the heaven and earth tremble. This is a peerless, vicious weapon. It must have killed unimaginable existences. The expressions of several holy master-level figures were heavy as they spoke. This spear must have pierced through the body of a peerless existence and dyed this vicious weapon with blood. It must have left behind the unparalleled killing intent of the past. Was the goddess within the stone going to appear with a peerless, vicious weapon? When they thought of this question, many people began to tremble. Endless fear shrouded their hearts, and they trembled as they retreated. Nangong Chi calmed himself down. After a long time, he walked forward again. However, one could see that the silver blade he took out was trembling. Pooh! Suddenly, as soon as the snow-white blade approached the spear, it broke apart inch by inch and turned into powder. The shocking killing intent crushed it to pieces. Just what kind of existence's blood had this almost decayed spear been soaked in? Countless years had passed, yet there was still this kind of killing intent that made one tremble. Let me do it. The Ji family's great elder walked forward. He grabbed another silver blade and slashed through the air. Stone powder fell down. He didn't touch the scarlet blood spear and left that area. He wanted to cut out the other parts of the goddess and not let this peerless, vicious weapon appear in the world too early. Gotcha! The stone's skin continuously fell off as a holy aura filled the air. A gentle radiance rushed out, rippling with an extremely divine and auspicious power. What kind of source is this? It's silver and dazzling like starlight, but also like moonlight? A few older generation figures were astonished. It's cut out. It's a goddess. There really is a goddess within. Many people were shocked. Archaic king, it must be an archaic king. The supreme elders of the Holy Lands were all shocked. Let's see what you will use to bet. The disciples of the Genesis technique aristocratic families were both fearful and excited. They coldly smiled as they stared at Yi Fan and Li Heishui. Chapter 377. No one knew what kind of origin this was. Almost no one could recognize it, not even Yi Fan or Nangong Qi. It wasn't all that dazzling, as if it was forged from the stars in the sky. It also seemed like the divine splendor of the moon had gathered together, gentle and hazy. It was sparkling and sparkling, attracting everyone's attention. The moment they saw it, they would feel that it was different from the masses and definitely not inferior to the divine origin. There was a pure and holy power circulating within. However, the mysterious origin seed wasn't the most attractive. The goddess inside was the focal point. Everyone's eyes were focused on this place. Cries of alarm first sounded within the stone garden, and then a deathly silence ensued. Soon after, a tsunami-like clamor resounded. Everyone was stunned. At this moment of witnessing a miracle, no one could remain calm. A goddess was cut out from the stone. It was like a fantasy story, recreating a rumor from more than 100,000 years ago. Within the crystalline origin stone that looked like moonlight, there was a delicate and pretty face. It was extremely peaceful, as if she was sleeping soundly and not moving at all. Her purple hair was smooth and bright, covering half of her immortal face. However, it was difficult to hide her stunning beauty. Her skin was exceptionally sparkling and white. It was as if it was carved from fine jade and not flesh. It gave people a dreamy feeling, making them feel as if this was a masterpiece of the heavens and not a product of flesh and blood. Everyone was stupefied. They were sure that this wasn't an illusion and that the goddess really came out. The strange origin seed that seemed to have been forged from stars emitted a divine power that diluted the blood-colored spear's killing intent. It made everyone feel a comfortable aura. Is this real? Why do I feel like this is all an illusion? A lively young lady, an archaic king. She was definitely an archaic king, because in that era, there were almost no creatures that looked exactly like humans. However, those that did were definitely from the royal race. Everyone noticed that this exceptional immortal face wasn't that old and even seemed a bit tender. She couldn't have exceeded 16 or 17 years of age. Was it her that wielded the exceptional spear and killed unimaginable existences? When they thought of this question, everyone's hearts trembled. The young lady looked peaceful and quiet, but that might not be her true age and state. Perhaps she was an exceptional king. In the crowd, Little Moon of the Ji family and the little nun in white grabbed the divine silkworm tightly. The little golden fairy was nervous and struggled fiercely, wanting to rush over. The Ji family's great expert's heart was as firm as steel. He didn't waver in the slightest. The silver blade in his hand slashed through the air. Stone powder flew everywhere and continuously fell. In almost an instant, he had cut out half of the origin stone. Half of the goddess's body was faintly discernible. She was wearing a golden dress, and her skin was as white as ivory. The mighty cultivators of Ji family had always been avoiding that peerless weapon. They didn't carve the stones around the blood-colored spear. They didn't want it to appear too early. Finally, almost all of the large origin stones had been cut out. Only the left side of the young maiden's body was not revealed, and there was a blood-colored spear there. Gotcha. In the end, Ji family's supreme expert still made his move. Rocks collapsed and continuously fell onto the ground, cutting off a large half of the exceptional spear. Boom! The shocking killing intent rose and fell like the tide. Everyone present felt as if they had fallen into purgatory. After a section of the almost decayed spear was revealed, many people couldn't endure it anymore. It was as if a peerless demon lord with an aura that could devour mountains and rivers had appeared. This was a type of intimidation that originated from the soul. It was grandiose and majestic, as if it was surging over from the 9 heavens and 9 hells at the same time. Plop. Many people couldn't endure it any longer. The killing intent seeped into their bones, and they fell weakly onto the ground. Their hearts were terrified to the extreme as they screamed and screamed. The peerless vicious weapon's form could be decayed, but its killing intent wouldn't be extinguished. Quickly retreat. Many cultivators trembled in fear as they retreated. Many of the older generation figures felt their hair stand on end. Ding! The silver blade rang out lightly. Ji family's supreme expert moved the blade as if it was flying, continuously cutting off the stone skin around the bloody spear. It was about to completely reveal itself. At this time, everyone sharply sensed that something was wrong. The rusty spear didn't seem to be held in the young maiden's hands. Something's wrong, something's completely wrong. This doesn't seem to be the goddess weapon. The archaic king seemed to have been pierced through by a peerless, vicious weapon. Everyone discovered this fact with shock. It looked like the young maiden's spear, but it wasn't like that. The ancient spear seemed to have pierced through her chest and nailed her in place. Kacha! With a final light sound, several hundred jin of rocks fell down, and the rare treasure hidden within the blood sacrificial altar was revealed. This was a magical source that was close to 2 meters tall. It floated in midair and didn't sink down. It had the same characteristics as a divine source, and a pure and holy power was flowing within it. A purple-haired young maiden was sealed inside. She had an exceptional celestial appearance, and she didn't move at all as if she was sleeping soundly. However, everyone let out a sigh. An exceptional divine spear pierced through the magical source, and the tip of the spear was revealed. It nailed the young maiden and pierced through her heart. No one expected this kind of result. An archaic king was killed just like that. It truly made everyone feel shocked. As for how powerful the archaic king was, no one knew. Some people guessed that she was on par with the great emperor, and that she was unrivaled under the heavens. Too much time had passed, and even the Holy Lands couldn't fight against the archaic races. It was because there was an era in between, and there was a vacuum period. As for how powerful they were, no one could say for sure, and no one could go back to the archaic era to verify it. The archaic king that could make heaven and earth tremble, how did it get pierced through? An unrivaled existence under the heavens. Why was she nailed to death by an exceptional vicious weapon? Even people like the Crimson Dragon Taoist and the Great Xia Imperial Uncle were in a daze. Everyone was horrified as they watched from afar. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to endure that kind of killing intent. The tip of the spear was awe-inspiring, and as it pressed over, everyone almost fell to the ground. Woo! Suddenly, a sorrowful cry rang out. It was extremely tender, but it was incomparably sorrowful. The divine silkworm immediately broke away from Ji Ziyue and the little nun, and rushed to the magical source that was floating in midair. Old ancestor, don't hurt it. Ji family's little moon transmitted. Ji family's almighty figure didn't stop it, and only stood there and watched silently. The divine silkworm wasn't frightened by the spear's killing intent. It directly threw itself onto the magical source and cried loudly, and its tears rolled down in pairs. Even the little nun lowly in white was hearing the divine silkworm's voice for the first time. Normally, it didn't make any sounds, and only moved. She even thought that it was a little mute. However, at this moment, it was sorrowful, and its big bright eyes were filled with tears. It wailed loudly and stretched out a little claw to continuously caress the young lady's face. But how could she come back to life? She had long been nailed there, and it was unknown how many years she had fallen. Xiao Guai, don't cry. The little nun in white persuaded gently, but she couldn't walk over. She couldn't endure the murderous weapon's killing intent. Little pitiful girl, don't cry. I'm feeling terrible. Ji family's little moon also spoke. What was going on? Everyone was stunned. Could it be that the little golden fairy knew that young lady? Seeing it so sorrowful and crying so hard, everyone's heart trembled. Could it be that there was an ancient past between them? This really made everyone shocked. The little golden fairy cried incomparably sorrowfully, and it almost fainted. It trembled as it reached out its little golden claw, caressing the young lady's face again and again. The young and tender cries made everyone's heart hurt. It seemed to be repeating a syllable. That was an archaic sound, and no one could understand it. However, everyone guessed that it might be that young lady's name. The little golden fairy cried endlessly, muttering that name again and again as tears flowed down. Everyone was moved. They didn't expect this little thing to be so sentimental, so sorrowful. They couldn't help but think of all kinds of scenes. In that archaic era, the great earth was full of vitality. Hundreds of races stood in great numbers, and many kings rose up together. A carefree young lady, even though she was a king, was ignorant of the affairs of the world. She depended on the little golden creature for survival, chasing and playing under the night moon. Unfortunately, one day she encountered other kings and died in battle in that era, leaving this little golden fairy alone to live until the present world. The young and tender cries. The cries were incomparably sorrowful. The little golden creature stuck to the crystal and cried sadly. However, when it called out that name, it was very gentle. It used its little golden claw to carefully caress the young lady's face, as if it was afraid of waking her up. Many things in the past never came back, let alone the past of the archaic era. As for what kind of story they had, no one knew. Tears continuously flowed from the divine silkworm's large eyes. After a long time, the cries became softer and finally disappeared. It cried so hard that it fainted. Ji family's expert carried this little thing and sent it in front of Ji Ziyue and the little nun. Poor little Guai. The two young ladies also felt sad. The divine silkworm could transform 9 times, looking down on the world and the world. However, with each transformation, it had to forget everything in the past. Maybe one day, it would forget everything. It wouldn't even remember that there was a young lady in the archaic era who had a period of time that it shouldn't forget. This is too inconceivable. How could the divine silkworm know this archaic king? How could there be such a coincidence? Nothing is impossible. The fact that it could revive in the present is already a miracle in itself. Archaic kings are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns, and the little golden creature is also of the royal race. It's not surprising that they know each other. The Crimson Dragon Taoist spoke and said, perhaps they really knew each other in the past. Perhaps this young lady is a 9 transformations divine silkworm. The little golden creature might have sensed a familiar aura. The young lady was a 9 transformations divine silkworm? That was possible. Everyone looked at the strange source in shock. The young lady inside was still rather tender. Was she really an unrivaled Holy Spirit after the 9 transformations? Only now did everyone realize that the bloody spear pierced through her heart from the back and not from the front. This gave people endless wild and fanciful thoughts. Perhaps the young lady was ignorant of worldly affairs and died from a sneak attack. Perhaps the 9 transformations divine silkworm had forgotten the past and was taken advantage of. As for what exactly happened in the archaic era, it had already passed away like smoke. No one truly knew. Only after a long time did everyone calm down. The value of this strange source was immeasurable. As an archaic king, the young lady inside was similarly a rare treasure. What's going on? Someone was shocked. He pointed at the crystal that looked like it was condensed from moonlight and said, why are there tears at the corners of the young lady's eyes? I don't remember there being any just now. It should be left behind by the little golden creature. When it landed on the source, it gave everyone a misconception. Ji family's great expert lightly brushed it, and the tears on the crystal completely disappeared. However, the tears at the corners of the young lady's eyes still hung there. Heavens, could it be that she's still alive? How is this possible? Many people were shocked and revealed expressions of disbelief. There were also people who laughed and said, you all are too nervous. There were clearly tears at the start. Right, there were tears at the start. I seem to have seen them as well. Otherwise, if she was sealed inside, even if she was alive, she wouldn't be able to shed tears. Impossible, there definitely weren't any at the start. A dispute broke out in the stone garden. Everyone had their own opinions. Stop arguing. Ji family's great expert frowned and said, she already doesn't have any life fluctuations. Only when a Holy Lord level figure spoke did everyone slowly calm down. Little friend, it's your turn to cut the stone. Nangong Chi smiled and looked towards Yi Fan, gesturing for him to start. Even though the goddess didn't have any life, such a large piece of strange source that could float in the air was definitely comparable to a divine source. The youngsters of the Genesis Technique ancient family all sneered. They believed that no matter what, Yi Fan would not be able to make a comeback. Not to mention this piece of strange source, even the young lady inside is a peerless material for refining tools. What can you use to compete? I already said that the more precious the thing he cuts out, the more abundant our harvest will be because it will all belong to us. You dare to compete with us? Their faces were filled with cold smiles as they stared at Yi Fan and Li Heishui. The other party was overbearing and overbearing. Li Heishui gritted his teeth and sneered, "The thing you cut out might not be as precious as the divine medicine seed." "Heishui brat, what are you saying? Such a large piece of divine source is hard to find in the world. Don't be so stubborn." A disciple of the Genesis technique ancient family sneered. Li Heishui said coldly, "In the eyes of the Holy Lands, divine medicines can extend the life of geniuses with the potential of emperors. They are much more precious than divine source. Plus, who knows what your source is? It might not even be as good as divine source. Laughable, it's useless no matter how stubborn you are. In a while we will find someone to appraise it. Just wait to pay until you die." Yi Fan didn't say anything more. He waved his silver blade and started to cut the tomb. Nangong Qi didn't secretly attack this time. He quietly stood at the side with the other 3 elders and watched with a smile. They were certain in their hearts and didn't believe that Yi Fan could defy the heavens. Kacha! Yi Fan's blade was very fierce. With one blade, he cut down dozens of kilograms of stone. He didn't plan to slowly cut it down. "Little friend, be careful. Don't damage our treasures." Nangong Qi smiled and reminded him, as if everything was in his control. "Are you sure that what I cut out will belong to you, and not everything you have will be won by me?" Yi Fan put away his blade and looked at him calmly. "You probably don't have any hope." Nangong Qi smiled and stroked his beard. "You won't cry until you see the coffin. We are waiting to see what rare treasures you can cut out." The youngsters of the Genesis technique ancient family all sneered. "Hey, today I will defy the heavens and show you," Yi Fan replied calmly. Hearing him say this, everyone present revealed a look of surprise, including the few holy master-level figures. All the saints and saintesses looked over. Some of the old men were also bewildered. All eyes were focused on him. Kacha! Yi Fan's second blade fell and cut off another dozen kilograms of stone. He didn't show any mercy at all. It was as if he was peeling a radish. An old man reminded, "Little friend, you are cutting the immortal tomb, not chopping vegetables. You should be more careful." Yes, this old man's heart hurts just looking at it. If you damage the immortal treasure, it will be too late for regrets. The people at the side were all scared witless. Yi Fan smiled. The blade turned, and stone fragments flew everywhere. His movements became light and agile. He swung his blade again and again, no longer making large movements. Suddenly, an incomparable holy aura rushed out. The immortal tomb overflowed with colorful lights and shone brilliantly. It was very mysterious. There really are immortal treasures in the immortal tomb. Everyone was shocked. Kacha! Yi Fan's blade slashed down. Many large pieces of stone cracked and fell off. And it was also at this time that 2 golden lights shot out like 2 burning torches. They were 2 gazes. Yi Fan decisively retreated. Even he didn't think that he would cut out a living creature. Heavens, there are living creatures in the immortal tomb. Gazes like torches. There are living creatures buried in the heavenly ancient tomb. There are immortal spirits in the heavenly sealed immortal tomb. A wave of exclamations came. Everyone was dumbfounded and shocked on the spot. One of the most abrupt voices shouted, "The fiery golden eyes Sun Wukong?" The others didn't know who Sun Wukong was, but Yi Fan did. He knew that it must be Pang Bo shouting. He must have also come to the scene. The ancient immortal tomb was overflowing with colorful lights, sacred and auspicious. No one would have thought that there would be a living creature inside. Chapter 378. The immortal tomb's ancient stone surface cracked apart. It was sparkling like a glass pagoda and blossomed with radiance, as if it was the world's most magnificent object. 10,000 streaks of multicolored light and thousands of streaks of auspicious colors appeared. It was almost translucent, as if it was cast from the world's most precious rainbow gems. It was extremely dreamy. It was originally simple and unadorned, but now that it saw the light of day, it was like a divine moon in the sky. Silver splendor descended, the holy splendor hazy. When faced with those two torch-like gazes, Yi Fan used a Genesis technique to lock down heaven and earth, isolating himself from the immortal tomb. He retreated as if he was flying, disappearing into the crowd. Could it be that there really was an immortal spirit emerging? Or was there a creature within the ancient tomb undergoing nirvanic rebirth? Or was it that another archaic king was born? Everyone was shocked, no one able to face it calmly. This wasn't any other stone, but rather an immortal tomb. The living creature within this natural ancient tomb could be said to be earth-shattering. After the shock, everyone was filled with endless fear. They all retreated. Even though the aura was pure and holy, blood might flow like a river in the next moment. Hurry and retreat. Hurry and leave this place. Quite a few people cried out loudly with terrified expressions. They rushed into the distance, not wanting to stay for even a moment longer. It was as if they were running from a prehistoric vicious beast. Today, everyone's horizons were broadened. They had seen all types of rare treasures and witnessed miracles, but now they might face a life and death disaster. It came out. It came out from the immortal tomb. Quite a few people felt cramps in their calves, almost unable to move their feet. It was difficult for them to escape because right now, the heavens seemed to be pressing down, continuously sinking. A tremendous pressure descended. Everyone was alarmed and in great disorder. They wanted to escape this place and preserve their lives. A mysterious creature appeared, its power flourishing, making everyone tremble uncontrollably. This was a pressure that originated from the soul, as if a superior was looking down on ants. The Ji family's expert was the first to take action. His 5 fingers spread out, and 5 streaks of electrical radiance shot out. They interweaved together to form a divine net, wrapping around the immortal tomb, wishing to send it into the formation patterns at the center. Those were the Tao patterns they had carved for the blood sacrificial altar. Who would have thought that this stone didn't produce a living king, and instead, a shocking accident happened in the immortal tomb. Poof! The sound wasn't loud, but there was a terrifying energy fluctuation. A hand reached out from the immortal tomb and crushed the divine net in an instant. Ji family's mighty figure's attack was futile. He couldn't send the immortal tomb into the center of the formation. The tomb didn't move at all. A pair of powerful hands grabbed onto the tomb and widened the crack. Gotcha! The immortal tomb completely cracked apart. A pair of arms reached out first, and at the same time, those 2 eyes became even more resplendent, flickering with light like 2 bright lamps. Hairy arms? That's definitely not an immortal spirit. What kind of monster is it? Golden fur and humanoid arms. What kind of creature is this? Everyone retreated while shouting. Many of the faster ones had long since disappeared. However, even more people chose to watch from afar. The stone squares of the various holy lands had clearly stated that flying was not allowed, but at this moment, no one cared. Their lives were more important, so they all soared into the sky. Clang! The great Xia imperial uncle made his move. 9 streams of true dragon chi flew out of his body, surging and roaring like real dragons. In an instant, they coiled in front of Qin Wenin. The 9-dragon tomb wrapped around him, lifting him off the ground and sending him into the Tao pattern space to teleport him into the heavenly prison of the God City. The void was like a great drum. It was beaten until it began to tremble, buzzing non-stop. 2 beams of light shot out from the immortal tomb, devouring the draconic energy and slowly breaking down the 9 true dragons, destroying them in the air. That's its gaze. It's actually so terrifying. Its eyes can turn into a dragon. Just what kind of creature is this? It's so powerful. Even some of the older generation figures were horrified. This result made them feel waves of cold air. The saints and saintesses all had serious expressions. They stood in the air and watched without blinking. Especially the great Xia imperial prince, his expression was incomparably grim. His eyes were sharp as he stared at the immortal tomb. Boom! Suddenly, the 3rd great bandit Su Tianxiong made his move. He slapped down with his palm, and a great imprint appeared under his palm. On it, dragons and tigers contended for supremacy, and Tao patterns densely covered it. The great imprint was simple and unadorned. It was unknown how heavy it was as it slowly pressed towards the immortal tomb. At this moment, everyone felt suffocated, almost unable to breathe. Boom! The creature in the immortal tomb didn't use any tricks. It directly smashed out with a fist. That golden hairy palm flickered with golden light, as if it had the power to shatter the heavens. Its fist smashed out. The void was like a painting scroll, trembling with walala sounds as if it would be torn apart at any time. It displayed its masculinity and domineeringness to the extreme. The golden hairy fist smashed into the simple and unadorned great imprint, releasing a loud sound. The eardrums of everyone in the distance rang with wung-wung sounds. Many people couldn't stand steadily, almost falling from the sky. The great imprint slowly disappeared, silently shattering. That golden hairy hand also trembled a bit, stopping in the air by itself. Then, it slowly retracted. The three Holy Lord level figures took action one after another. It was clear that they had already seen through something. As a great figure, El Ran didn't attack together, but instead separated and surrounded it. Meanwhile, the creature in the immortal tomb didn't rush to jump out either. It seemed to be thinking that it definitely wasn't a vicious creature that only knew how to kill. The Crimson Dragon Old Taoist took 2 steps forward. The creature in the immortal tomb was no longer calm. With a hong sound, it completely shattered the ancient tomb and walked out with large steps. This type of creature is, in the distance, cries of alarm sounded. This humanoid creature's aura was extraordinary, possessing a high level of battle intent. It wasn't all that tall, less than 5 feet in height, but it was extremely sturdy. It had the appearance of a human, covered densely in golden fur that flickered with radiance. Even though it wasn't all that majestic and imposing, it possessed a powerful feeling of power. With a raise of its hand, it seemed like it could pluck the stars and seize the moon. With a light movement, even the void would distort. It was like an ape, but it was even more similar to a human. Only, the golden fur was dense, making it hard to classify it as a human. As it stood there was a type of aura of supremacy. This was a type of innate pressure, as if it was a supreme being that towered above the clouds, looking down on all creatures in this world. Its eyes shot out golden light in all directions, fiery light like torches. The legendary monkey, Sun Wukong? This type of thought also appeared in Yi Fan's mind. Of course, he only thought about it, not believing it to be true. At the feet of this creature, there was a pile of broken divine origin mixed with multicolored light. The light was dazzling, but it was difficult to conceal its might. Its fiery eyes swept over everyone, causing their hearts to palpitate. At this moment, it was the only thing in this world. Regardless of whether it was the divine origin fragments or the goddess not far away, they were all ignored. Everyone was nervously staring at it. This was a truly living creature that had been cut out by hundreds of thousands of people. It was a powerful supreme being from the archaic era, and it might even be a king. The expressions of those from the light-shaking realm changed drastically. Not only had they suffered heavy losses, but the appearance of this powerful creature also made them feel uneasy. It was very likely that it would destroy the stone square. The immortal graveyard had been displayed here for who knew how many years. Ever since it was rejected by the Genesis Technique Grandmasters, no one had paid attention to it. They had never thought that there would be a living creature inside. Furthermore, it was very obvious that this creature had awakened a long time ago, but it had never been born. Fortunately, they had cut it out today. Otherwise, if it suddenly jumped out on its own in the future, there might be some kind of chaos. Bang! Suddenly, the supreme being of the Ji clan made his move again. A large pitch-black hand formed, covering the sky and the earth, covering the entire stone garden. The large black hand covered the sky and pressed down like a dark cloud. It was the great void handprint, and it pressed down until the void continuously collapsed. This creature covered in golden fur let out a low roar. It opened its mouth and spat out a ray of golden light. Its powerful aura made everyone watching the battle tremble. The golden light it spat out blocked the large black hand. It was like a sudden clap of thunder, resounding throughout the divine city. It was as if a large star had been destroyed in the star domain. It was terrifying to the extreme. The Crimson Dragon Taoist's ancient robe fluttered in the wind. He walked forward step by step, revealing a shocked expression. This is an archaic king race. King race? After hearing this, many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Even more people quickly retreated, wanting to hide in the horizon. Archaic king race were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. They could be compared to great emperors. Dao brother, are you sure that he is from the archaic king race? The third-ranked bandit Su Tianxiong asked. The Crimson Dragon Taoist nodded and said, he is from the archaic king race, but that doesn't mean that he has already become an archaic king. If I'm not wrong, he hasn't matured yet. An archaic king race that hasn't matured yet? Everyone was even more shocked. There was still a terrifying room for growth. He already possessed such shocking combat prowess before reaching the peak. If he truly became an archaic king, what kind of might would he possess? This is a sacred battle ape of the archaic king race, a natural-born battle saint. Even in the archaic era, only 2 or 3 of them could be found. When the Crimson Dragon Taoist said these words, everyone present felt even more alarmed. A sacred ape that was born for battle, just the name alone was enough to tell its status. At this moment, this sacred battle ape's expression also displayed its transcendence. Its eyes were fiery and golden, and its battle intent was high. It looked disdainfully at all directions, and every movement it made seemed like it could break the heavens. A king that hadn't matured yet, a natural-born battle saint, even the supreme existences were moved. If they could subdue it now, what kind of heaven and earth would there be in the future? Just the thought of it made everyone astonished. The Ji clan's supreme existence took action. The heaven-severing finger flicked out, and 5 true dragons took form. They pounced forward, wanting to restrain the sacred battle ape. Bang! This sacred battle ape's entire body blossomed with golden light. Every single strand of hair became sparkling and translucent, and there was actually a dignified charm to it. It was simple and direct as it smashed out with a punch. Pop! A shattering sound rang out from the stone garden. This sacred battle ape that hadn't matured yet shattered the 5 true dragons with a single punch, breaking through the supreme secret technique recorded in the void ancient scripture. As expected, it is a natural-born battle saint. Everyone was astonished. This sacred battle ape's strength could break the heavens. It wasn't tall and sturdy, but it had the power to pull up mountains. In the distance, Yi Fan didn't fly up into the sky and instead watched from the bamboo forest with Li Heishui. He felt that his blood flow was somewhat faster, and he hurriedly suppressed it and covered it up. The Crimson Dragon Taoist walked forward and stretched out a large scarlet-red hand, grabbing towards the sacred battle ape. As soon as he made his move, the expressions of the supreme existences changed. They were afraid that this far ancient imperial race would be subdued. The sacred battle ape's expression also changed, and the golden hair on its body stood on end. The divine force in its body revolved 9 times, and 9 rays of divine light flashed on the surface of its body, becoming more and more resplendent. The sacred battle ape race's 9 revolutions heavenly art. The Crimson Dragon Taoist didn't dare to be careless. A scarlet dragon coiled around his large hand, and it let out a deafening dragon roar. Chapter 379. Everyone was astonished. They didn't know why the Red Dragon Taoist knew so much about the far ancient imperial race, but no one thought too much about it. Once the 9 revolutions heaven art was activated, it could compete with deities. Every strand of the sacred battle ape's hair flickered like lightning. Its powerful battle intent and terrifying killing intent were like a tsunami crashing down. Bang! With his eyes of fire and gold, he unleashed a domineering attack. His furry golden fist landed on the blood-colored hand in an instant. 9 levels of divine power rushed forward one after another. It could be said that the 9 attacks shook the heavens with incomparable might. Even someone as powerful as the Red Dragon Taoist had a serious expression. The crimson dragon on his hand raised its head and merged with the bloody hand. The dragon roar shook the heaven and earth. He had to do this because the 9 levels of divine power from the 9 revolutions heaven art kept on superimposing. Each level was more terrifying than the previous. When the 9 attacks merged into one, it could split the heaven and earth. Boom! It was like moving the mountains and overturning the seas. Once the 9 attacks of the 9 revolutions heaven art were unleashed, it could be said that the world lost its color. If it was allowed to come out, not to mention the Heaven Stone Garden, even the entire stone square might not be able to protect itself and turn into ashes. This was the far ancient sacred battle ape race's shocking method. The Ji family's expert, the third greatest bandit of the north, Su Tianxiong, and the great Xia imperial uncle of the Central Plains acted at the same time. They sealed off this space and isolated this place with complex and profound Dao patterns. Even so, everyone felt their blood run cold. They could see the killing intent soaring into the sky like 1,000 great rivers rushing into the heavens. The Red Dragon Taoist forcefully received the 9 attacks of the 9 revolutions heaven art. His ancient robe fluttered, but he himself didn't move at all. Thump, thump, thump. The sacred battle ape was unable to shake its opponent, and its golden fur dimmed. It swayed and kept retreating. With every step it took, a terrifying crack appeared on the ground. The bloody hand in the air pressed down and slowly approached. It enveloped its entire body and emitted waves of dragon roars. Everyone was in an uproar. The Red Dragon Taoist could indeed run amok in the eastern wasteland. He actually wanted to subdue an far ancient imperial race. If he were to be nurtured, the Holy Lands would be in great trouble in the future. The sacred battle ape let out a low roar, and its golden fur stood on end. 2 beams of golden light shot out from its eyes, tearing the void apart. At that moment, time seemed to have stopped. The sacred battle ape reached out a hand and took something from the void that it had pierced through. It was sparkling and silvery, as if stars had converged to form it. It was none other than the mysterious source of the goddess, and it was in the hands of the sacred battle ape. It actually knew spatial techniques, which exceeded everyone's expectations. Its eyes could pierce through the void to capture things. This type of divine technique was shocking just thinking about it. This is bad. The Ji family powerhouses, Su Tianxiong, and the great Xia imperial uncle all frowned. They felt that things weren't good and were prepared to act at any moment. Boom. His killing intent was like an ocean that surged and roared as it swept high into the sky, and it was like a devil emperor had traversed the heavens and descended into the mortal world. A blood-colored spear appeared in the sacred battle ape's hand. Although it was rusted and almost rotten, it was one with the sacred battle ape. A shocking murderous aura erupted from it, as if it was stirring up the 9 heavens. The sky was shaking, the earth was trembling, and people's hearts were also trembling. It held the murderous weapon and stopped the Red Dragon Taoist, standing proudly in the field. At the same time, divine radiance shot out from its body, sweeping up the fragments of the divine source on the ground and covering the mysterious source. Especially after it pulled out the spear, the bloody hole left on the goddess's body had 5-colored divine light rushing in. Dense mist circulated, and it was completely sealed. Everyone gasped. The sacred battle ape was like a tiger that had grown wings after obtaining that peerless murderous weapon. It looked arrogantly in all directions, and its eyes were like torches. It was extremely intimidating. Swoosh! The sacred battle ape held the blood-colored spear and strode forward, stabbing forward. Bloody light rushed out and went straight for the Red Dragon Taoist's throat. Biting cold murderous intent filled the air, covering the earth and sky. If it was an ordinary person, not to mention facing the attack, they would have fallen limp to the ground under this kind of murderous intent and be minced into meat paste. But who was the Red Dragon Taoist? He didn't retreat at all. His finger was like a ray of light, pointing forward. 81 blood-colored sword energies pierced through the void and struck forward. Clang! The sacred battle ape fiercely shook the murderous weapon. The war spear swayed about chaotically, as if it broke through a spatial barrier. Tens of thousands of streaks of sharp radiance shattered all of the sword energy. The rusty war spear seemed to have revived. The exceptional murderous intent became even more astonishing. It was trembling on its own, as if it thirsted for blood. Bloody light flickered about, and in its surroundings, a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood appeared. This was a terrifying scene. The war spear was submerged in a sea of blood. White bones floated within the sea of blood. It was born while bathed in blood, turning into a streak of blood-colored lightning. It pierced through the void and killed exceptional experts one after another. A heaven-shocking strike pierced through heaven and earth, stabbing a tall figure wearing a crown on his head to death. In the end, it turned into a blood-colored true dragon. Mountains and rivers lost color as it stabbed into a young lady's back, passing through her chest and nailing her there. Everyone's expressions changed. The indistinct flickering scene was enough to prove the viciousness of this weapon. It had killed archaic kings before. It possessed this type of terrifying murderous intent. Everything seemed reasonable and reasonable. It had killed world-shaking great figures before, died in their blood. Even though it wasn't an extreme weapon, its vicious might was still enough to shake the world. Just this type of murderous intent was enough to suppress all divine weapons. The sacred battle ape held the vicious and impressive blood spear in hand. It was full of confidence. It shouted loudly in the archaic language and immediately stabbed forward. The Crimson Dragon Old Taoist faced the attack with a strange posture. He was like a true dragon traversing the skies. His vertebrae released jibeng sounds, and like a dragon's body, he fiercely swung his legs down like a dragon's tail. Pa! The divine radiance he released struck the ancient spear, blasting it to the side. However, it couldn't stop it. The spear was like blood as it continued to pierce over, following his figure. The Crimson Dragon Old Taoist released a light cry, as if a dragon was roaring through the skies. Bloody light flickered in his hand, and a blood dragon whip appeared, striking towards the war spear. Chung! An ear-splitting sound rang out. The blood dragon whip was like a dragon as it fiercely clashed with the war spear. They collided back and forth, sending sparks flying in all directions. That blood dragon whip is refined from the remains of the Crimson Dragon Old Taoist, yet it actually can't stop a vicious weapon. Great Xia Imperial Uncle was astonished. When he said this, the others were even more shaken. The remains of the Crimson Dragon Old Taoist were definitely top-grade materials for refining weapons, yet the blood dragon whip was lightly crying out, as if it couldn't hold on any longer. How is this possible? That ancient spear has already decayed and is about to break, so how can it still be so sturdy? Many people were puzzled, and their expressions were full of astonishment. They felt more and more that the ancient races were powerful and mysterious, and even their weapons were like this. Even though its form is about to decay, its killing intent is unextinguished. The Tao and reason interweaved by the soul of the weapon is enough to hold on and can still exist for a long time. That is why it is able to suppress the blood dragon whip. Ji family's powerhouse said. The sacred battle ape was incomparably brave. He used the ancient spear as a large rod and swung it about, collapsing the void. He simply wanted to shatter heaven and earth as he suppressed the Crimson Dragon Taoist. His eyes were fiery and his strength was boundless. He circulated the 9 revolutions heavenly art, wanting to compete with Heaven Duke. The golden fur on his body flickered, and his might was unmatched. In the distant sky, people were discussing in fear. Many people were muttering to themselves. If even the Crimson Dragon Taoist couldn't stop it, there might be a huge disaster. This is simply the rebirth of Sun Wukong. Could it be that Grandpa Great Sage is also from this race? This was Pang Bo's words that were mixed in with everyone's words. No one paid attention to him. Yi Fan, however, had the same feeling. No matter how he looked at it, it seemed like the legendary monkey had been reborn. Could it be that the great sage who was on the other side of the starry sky had come from the origin stone? If such a monkey really appeared in ancient China, then it might really be from the same race, the sacred battle ape. Boom! The sacred battle ape was becoming more and more ferocious. Its strength was boundless, and when the rod smashed down, even someone as strong as the Crimson Dragon Taoist almost couldn't endure it. The blood dragon whip in his hand almost snapped. And at this time, something even more terrifying happened. That rusty spear trembled on its own, and a terrifying aura that was becoming stronger and stronger was released. The soul of the weapon is awakening. Not good, Tao Brother Crimson Dragon, let us help you. If the murderous weapon completely awakens, it will be a disaster. Apart from extreme weapons, I'm afraid that very few weapons can shatter it. The Almighty of the Ji family, Su Tianxiong, and the great Xia imperial uncle were about to go forward. They were afraid that the sacred battle ape would use this murderous weapon to kill everyone. "Let me do it myself," the Crimson Dragon Taoist said calmly. He put away the blood dragon whip and stood on the spot. His hands moved, and the sky began to tremble. 9 forms of the true dragon. Many of the older generation exclaimed. The supreme art of the demon race was exclusive to the flood dragon bloodline. It was said that its inheritance had already been severed, but who would have thought that the red dragon Taoist would continue it? No matter how powerful the sacred battle ape was, it couldn't hurt the red dragon Taoist at all. He was changing heaven and earth, and the moment he closed his hands, he almost opened up a small world. The red dragon Taoist's hands crushed the sky, and at this moment, an unbelievable scene occurred. Even the space was twisted and compressed. He smelted the void and isolated an independent small world. It was only a few feet in radius, and he was going to suppress the sacred battle ape inside. Not only has the 9 forms of the true dragon been continued, but it has also almost been completed. The red dragon Taoist is too terrifying. The older generation were all shocked, and everyone's expression changed. They felt that the old demon's magical power was indeed heaven-defying, and his methods were world-shocking. The sacred battle ape sensed that things were bad. Golden light rushed into the sky from its eyes. It also knew spatial techniques, and it tore open a space with its gaze. "Not good, quickly stop it, don't let it cross the void. Its fiery eyes can open the realm gate. We can't let it escape." The Almighty of the Ji family, Su Tianxiong, and the great Xia imperial uncle attacked at the same time. They attacked the spatial gate and the sacred battle ape's eyes, not giving it a chance to escape. The realm gate was sealed, and the sacred battle ape's golden eyes were attacked. It was pressed down by the red dragon Taoist, and its body seemed to be injured as it staggered back. It retreated to the fragment of the immortal tomb and suddenly reached out, hugging the mysterious source with the goddess sealed inside. It swept up the fragments on the ground, and with a flash of light, it disappeared into a black hole. What's going on? Everyone was confused, and the stone square was in chaos. The red dragon Taoist walked forward and kicked away the immortal tomb fragment. He discovered some star-like Tao patterns that were slowly dimming. The Almighty of the Ji family said, "This monkey is very crafty, and it had already prepared a path of retreat. If it can beat us, then we'll fight. If it can't, then it can run. This monkey hasn't even matured yet, and it's already so powerful. It truly makes one feel apprehensive. Chase, it can't be too far from the divine city." These people disappeared in a flash, and their traces were nowhere to be seen. "Damned monkey, return my divine source," Yi Fan shouted angrily in the stone garden. Dang! Suddenly, the sound of a bell resounded throughout the divine city, shaking everyone. The entire city was stirred. This kind of bell sound was too familiar, and it was already the 3rd time it rang out. The Purple Mountain Wuxia's bell waves came along with the people crossing the void. The clamor in the divine city was even more shocking than seeing an archaic king. Everyone knew that the final attack on the Purple Mountain had a result. Chapter 380. The sound of the bell washed away everyone's souls. The divine city was quiet at first, but then it exploded with a loud clamor. Did he succeed or fail? What's the result? This was the answer everyone wanted to know. Great Emperor Wuxia had shaken the past and present. His inheritance affected everyone's hearts. This was the influence of one person. Even though he had passed away many years ago, once news of him appeared, it would overwhelm everything else and become the focal point. Even though the far ancient imperial race was cut out and everyone saw it with their own eyes, it was not comparable to the news about him. Has the Purple Mountain been opened? Has the secret of the ancient emperors been revealed? At this moment, everyone was both nervous and expectant. They all wanted to know the result. The most nervous were those from the Holy Lands. They were afraid of hearing bad news. In reality, many people were already feeling uneasy. Because only in times of crisis would the Saint Lords use the special stone tokens of the divine city to escape here. If they had really opened the Purple Mountain and obtained the inheritance, they wouldn't be in such a hurry. Could it be that they failed again? Could it be that a Saint Lord has fallen? Many of the Holy Land's disciples were worried about their personal gains and losses, afraid that bad news would arrive. If the Holy Master fell, it would be a calamity. At this moment, the saints and ladies were the most nervous. If the Holy Lord of their sects were to disappear, it would very likely affect their current status. An hour later, the news spread and shook the entire divine city. The 100 sects of the Central Plains and the Eastern Barren Holy Land had joined hands and used a total of 5 extreme weapons. This exceeded people's previous estimate of 4. The Jiang clan's Eternal Universe Furnace, the Ji clan's Void Mirror, and the Alcade's Dragon Pattern Cauldron appeared at the same time. Together with the 2 from the Central Plains, it could be said that the world was shaken. Even in the darkest era of human history, when blood flowed like rivers and corpses piled up into mountains, the number of extreme weapons used didn't exceed this number. The power of 5 extreme weapons was unimaginable. People believed that they could pierce through the sky, evaporate the oceans, and crush the mountains. Nothing could stop them. However, the result made people dumbfounded. The Purple Mountain wasn't flattened and was still standing there. This time, the 5 extreme Dao weapons were brought out, and the Purple Mountain was indeed opened, allowing everyone to enter. However, it also caused an even greater vibration from the Wuxia bell. If it wasn't for the fact that they were hiding in the extreme grade weapon, everyone would have been turned into ashes. Not a single one of them would have survived. In the words of a divine lord, he suspected that there was a great emperor controlling the Wuxia bell. Otherwise, how could it suppress 5 extreme weapons? Is this true? When this news spread out, everyone was stunned. 5 extreme Dao weapons combined were still suppressed by Wuxia's bell wave. It was shocking. Could it be that I've failed again? Everyone's heart skipped a beat. If they failed this time, who knew how many years it would take to open the inheritance of great Emperor Wuxia? Perhaps only when a new great emperor was born would he be able to enter and retrieve the supreme scripture. We can't confirm the failure yet. The great sage lords retreated with injuries, but the operation didn't stop there. Instead, it was handed over to a group of old men who were nearing the end of their lifespans. They were all supreme elders who had retired from the world. At most, they only had a few more years of lifespan left. However, they were all very powerful, and some of them were not any weaker than the divine lords. They drove their extreme weapons into the Purple Mountain to make their last stand. If they succeeded, they would have a great opportunity. If they failed, they would be turned into ashes. Aren't they afraid of losing the extreme weapons in the Purple Mountain? The Holy Lands have already made detailed arrangements to ensure that the extreme weapons can be summoned back. The arrangements of the 100 schools of thought and the Eastern Barren Great Sage Lands were almost the same. The leaders retreated and were handed over to the old men who were nearing the end of their lifespans. Of course, this was all voluntary. I believe there will be a result soon. The people from the Holy Lands were all looking forward to it. It was destined that this day wouldn't be peaceful. They were waiting for the earth-shattering news. The attack on the Purple Mountain was still in progress. No one had expected this result. The major forces clearly wanted to gain something. They didn't want to leave empty-handed. The biggest question people had was, what kind of power was controlling the bell of the beginning? Could it produce such terrifying bell waves by itself? This didn't seem realistic. After all, it was suppressing the 5 extreme weapons. The divine city was in an uproar and only calmed down after a long time. People believed that if there were no accidents, news would definitely spread from the Purple Mountain today. The third attack on the Purple Mountain, whether it was a success or a failure, would have a clear result. In the Ji family's stone workshop, most people didn't leave. After understanding the situation at the Purple Mountain, they wanted to see how the battle of stone gambling would end. Woo-woo, a heartbroken cry rang out. It was tender and sorrowful. The divine silkworm woke up from its coma. Tears rolled down its eyes in pairs. It cried out with yaya sounds and continuously searched the stone garden. It wanted to see the young girl sealed within the strange source, and it continuously wept in grief. Xiao Guai, don't cry. The little nun in white persuaded gently. Ji Ziyue also comforted it. She took out a few divine source beans and brought them to its mouth. She told it what had happened in a soft voice. The golden fairy ignored the divine source beans and listened while sobbing. Its eyes were blurred by tears. It murmured the girl's name softly. It was an archaic voice. No one could understand it. On the other side, Yi Fan's sadness was no less than the divine silkworms. So many divine source beans had been snatched away by the monkey. His heart was bleeding. Monkey, I'm not done with you. Monkey, you owe me a huge debt. Monkey, you've sown a huge karma with me. He was almost depraved. The divine source that could envelop a human body could be called a world-shocking treasure. Without a doubt, its value was astronomical. At the same time, he also had a trace of doubt. Why did the blood in his body speed up when facing the sacred battle ape? Could it be that there was a strange reaction like when facing the divine body? Or could it be that the sacred battle ape's 9 revolutions heaven art had an indescribable attraction to the divine body? He even thought of the fighting character formula of the 9 secrets. Could it be that there was some kind of evolutionary relationship? Li Heishui was also very angry, but he also had the urge to laugh. He said, "You've always cheated others, but today, you've been cheated by a monkey. This monkey is 2F** King Despicable. You should really find an iron chain to tie it up and play with it." On the other side, Nangong Qi and the others walked over. They pointed at Yi Fan with a cold smile. Yi Fan was very angry. He scolded, "Why are you pointing at me? The monkey you cut out snatched away my world-shocking divine treasure. The goddess, the murderous weapon, such a large piece of divine source beans. There's nothing left. Can you afford to compensate me?" Nangong Qi questioned. Li Heishui was furious after hearing this. He scolded, "We cut out the monkey, which is equivalent to winning the stone gambling war. Everything is ours. Speaking of which, this is our loss. What does it have to do with you?" "Hey brat, what do you know? Although you cut out a monkey, I also cut out the goddess. Moreover, I also cut out an exceptional murderous weapon. It's even more valuable." Nangong Qi said coldly. "Sush." Yi Fan kicked the fragment of the immortal tomb away and cut out a piece of divine source beans the size of a human head. This was a fragment left behind in the immortal tomb, but it was still worth 500,000 kilograms of pure divine source. This was a great fortune in misfortune. He hadn't opened the immortal tomb for nothing. This gave him a trace of comfort. Your ancient insect divine source, Qilin seed, and this piece of divine source beans are all ours. A few young disciples from an ancient family came forward to snatch it. Li Heishui raised his eyebrows. "You guys are so shameless. You actually want to snatch our rare treasures? Not to mention the monkey, even this Qilin seed is priceless. It's more precious than your things." Nangong Qi's lips curled into a cold smile. He walked over with the other 3 elders. "You guys have indeed lost. You have to hand over all the rare treasures to us." Yi Fan looked at him calmly. "The rare treasures I cut out are more valuable than yours. Far from it. What I cut out is a divine treasury. It's many times more precious than yours." Nangong Qi shook his head with his hands behind his back. "Although you guys cut out peerless treasures, it's still far from Grandpa Nangong's." The younger disciples from the ancient Genesis technique clan echoed one after another with icy smiles on their faces. "You guys have lost the Genesis technique duel. You have to admit your defeat. Our Genesis technique is no match for Grandpa Nangong. Are you going to deny it?" Li Heishui laughed in anger. "You're lying through your teeth. You're distorting the truth. What do you have to compare with us? What we cut out is a living primordial imperial family member. Can you even compare? Although you guys cut out a monkey, we also cut out a goddess and a peerless weapon. What do you have to compare?" The people from an ancient family retorted with sneers. The vast majority of people didn't disperse. They all gathered around and discussed animatedly. Yi Fan said, "Don't try to avoid the important and dwell on the trivial. The sacred battle ape I cut out is alive. Is the goddess you cut out alive?" A young disciple from an ancient family sneered. "What value can a sacred battle ape have? It's just a vicious creature. How can it compare to that ancient spear? It's definitely one of the great weapons below the extreme path weapons. That's right. What's the use of a monkey? It will only bring disaster. If you admit your defeat, hurry up and hand over the Qilin seed. Another disciple sneered. Li Heishui's temper flared. You guys are really shameless. You want to turn black into white. You've clearly lost, but you're still pestering us endlessly. You want our Qilin seed. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? The sacred battle ape is an ancient royal family. Its future achievements will be comparable to that of a great emperor. If we subdue it now, how much do you think it's worth? Yi Fan said coldly. He was also about to be angered. The ancient family clearly didn't want to admit their loss and even wanted to steal his treasure. Who can subdue it? Even the Almighty can't do anything. It's useless. It can only be regarded as a vicious beast. It has no value. Nangong Qi personally said. I respect you as a grandmaster, but you're lowering your own status. How can you say such words? Yi Fan sneered. As a Genesis technique grandmaster, don't you understand the value of an ancient royal family? Li Heishui said to the people around him, everyone, come and judge. Aren't they going too far? At this moment, a group of old men didn't leave. They were extremely envious of the ancient insect god source and the Qilin seed. All of them wanted to get their hands on them and use them to prolong their lives. And Miaoyi, Su Heng, Jin Qishao, as well as the saint sons and saint daughters didn't leave either. In fact, many people were absent-minded. Perhaps in another 2 to 4 hours, the final result of the attack on the Purple Mountain would be clear. This old man feels that Brother Nangong's divine treasury is priceless. The supreme elder of the Disillusionment Palace, Li Yishui, stepped forward and glanced at Yi Fan with a mocking expression. Chapter 381. Elder Li is wise and insightful. These two are clearly sore losers and don't want to admit defeat. The Genesis technique war has already ended. If you're a man, don't be so wishy-washy. Hurry up and hand over the Qilin seed. The youngsters from the Genesis technique ancient clan spoke one after another with smiles on their faces. They were naturally happy to see such a situation and hoped that more old friends would stand up for them. Li Heishui's anger surged, and he really wanted to step on these people's faces. They were bullying him and Yi Fan because they had no background. He slowly calmed himself down and sneered. Little brother Gu Feng's treasure should be even more valuable. Sky Demon Palace's young master Yao Yuekong spoke, standing on Yi Fan's side at this crucial moment. The great Xia Prince Xia Yiming nodded. A living ancient royal race is a priceless treasure. We can truly understand the great ancient secrets through it. You're wrong. Disillusionment Palace's supreme elder Li Yishui shook his head, a faint smile on his face. He swept a glance at Yi Fan. The ancient royal race can't be tamed, so it's useless. On the contrary, the value of that peerless weapon is immeasurable. What can you use to compare? Brother Li is right. It's just an ancient monkey, it's not very useful. Nangong Qi smiled and nodded. Yi Fan calmly said, since you insist that a living ancient royal race isn't as good as the weapon, then I'll give you a simple example. Let me ask you, how about the Battle Saint Ape Clan's 9 Revolutions Heaven Art? The expressions of the Genesis technique ancient clan members froze. It was an immortal inheritance, and its value was difficult to estimate. Can it be compared to the ancient scriptures of the sacred grounds? Can it suppress that ominous weapon? Yi Fan asked, causing the people from the ancient Genesis technique clan to be tongue-tied. They wanted to refute but couldn't find the words to say. We were also hesitating just now, but now that I think about it, the value of a living ancient royal race is too great. It's immeasurable. It is indeed more precious. That's right, even in the ancient era, there were only 2 or 3 Battle Saint Apes. They were comparable to great emperors, and their qi cultivation method was naturally an earth-shattering ancient scripture, a priceless treasure. Some of the old men present nodded in agreement. They coveted the divine medicine, but they wouldn't go so far as to distort the truth. Li Yishui, the supreme elder of the Disillusionment Palace, shook his head and said with a smile, everyone, you are wrong. Humans may not be able to cultivate the battle-sacred Apes 9 Revolution sky art, so it is not precious. Yi Fan sneered, you are spouting nonsense. The extremity of cultivation is the same. The 9 Revolutions heavenly art is priceless. Moreover, the ancient scriptures of some human holy lands are inheritances from the primeval age. Why are you always here? Li Heishui hated him from the bottom of his heart. Young man, show some respect when you speak. Don't be careless. The Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace pulled a long face. Do you still deserve my respect? Li Heishui shook his head. Disillusionment Palace's Supreme Elder revealed his killing intent and said, Disrespectful Junior, today I will teach you how to be a proper person. He was about to attack. Although he was speaking to Li Heishui, he obviously included Yi Fan, wanting to suppress him together. These two are too arrogant. They should be taught a lesson. Insulting the seniors is a great crime. They should be imprisoned for several years. The young disciples of the ancient Genesis technique families were eager for someone to stand up for them. They sneered and echoed. The Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace pressed forward step by step. After finding a reason, he was about to attack in public. Li Heishui, your mother is calling you to go home for dinner. A voice suddenly came from outside the crowd. Everyone was petrified when they heard this. Yi Fan knew that it must be Pangbo. Such words were too unusual in this world, and only he could say it. Who is it? Li Heishui was flustered and exasperated. Someone dared to say such words. Only then did the crowd burst into laughter. Many of the older generation couldn't help laughing. The younger generation was even more unscrupulous, rocking back and forth with laughter. Yi Fan joked, Old man, why don't you go home for dinner first? Your mother is looking for you. Ha! Everyone laughed heartily. Even the corners of the ancient Genesis technique clan members' mouths twitched as they tried their best not to smile. As the Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that half of his body was in the grave, but someone had used his mother to call him home for dinner. How could he endure this? At this moment, it was as if someone had stepped on his tail. His shame turned into anger, and he faced Yi Fan and Li Heishui with boundless murderous intent. He wanted to kill them to vent his anger. I will send you on your way. Old man, don't think of yourself as the sacred lord who can suppress whoever you want. Li Heishui didn't panic. He threw out a black iron token towards the Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace. Juniors dare to be so disrespectful to me. It won't be too much to take your life, Li Heishui said in a cold voice. He grabbed the black iron token in his hand and was about to crush it. However, he tried several times but couldn't shake it. He was greatly surprised. Old man, look at what that is. Li Heishui sneered. That old thing's divine order. On the side, many older generation figures cried out in alarm, turning pale with fright. The iron token was as black as ink without any luster. It was only the size of a palm, and there was a mountain engraved on it. It was covered by clouds and mist, making it blurry. The Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace stared at the iron token in his hand. His eyes widened and his body trembled. How can you have, it really is, that old fart's divine token? Poor they. Why do they have such a thing? All the older figures were stunned. Their expressions changed as if they had seen a snake or scorpion. That old fart was mysterious and terrifying. He was the #1 bandit of the northern region, and no one knew how high his cultivation was. 1,000 years ago, he chased after a sacred lord and almost forced him into the absolute beginning forbidden land. He even waited outside a sacred land for several years, waiting for a big shot to come out and take his head away. He represented mystery and terror. To this day, no one had seen his true appearance. No one knew whether he was a man or a woman. People only knew that he was very old and his strength was unfathomable, but no one knew how long he had lived. In the northern region, he was the synonym of terror. Many people said that they would rather offend a sacred lord than be his enemy. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. The black iron tokens were passed down by him, and there were only 2 or 3 of them. They were life-saving divine tokens, and even the people of the sacred land feared them. At this time, in Miaoi, Jin Qishao, and the other saints all revealed strange expressions. When the older figures looked at Yi Fan and Li Heishui, their expressions also changed. With the old fart's divine token, not many people in the northern region dared to attack them. Didn't you want to take our lives? Come, we'll let you kill us. Li Heishui took 2 steps forward. The Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace was red with embarrassment. He couldn't advance or retreat. Who dared to kill the old fart's people in public? Even if Li Heishui had 10 more guts, he wouldn't do it unless he didn't want to live anymore. Clang. While he was absent-minded, his hand shook, and the black iron token fell to the ground, emitting a clear metallic sound. You threw the divine token. Are you going to attack us? I didn't throw it. The Grand Elder of the Disillusionment Palace's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly picked up the black iron token, afraid that a peerless demon would appear and kill him with a finger. 2 young friends, this old man has offended you before. Please forgive me. I'm old and muddle-headed. Please don't take it to heart. Li Yishui's face was red. When he said these words, he wanted to find a hole to hide in. He returned the divine token with both hands, then turned around and left. He really couldn't stay any longer. He was full of frustration and humiliation. Let's go home and eat. Pang Bo cleared his throat again. Who's this? I worship you so much. Li Heishui laughed and looked around for someone. The others couldn't help but twitch their mouths. This was too wicked. How could Li Yishui face others in the future? Senior, you lost. Yi Fan mentioned the result of the Genesis technique duel. Wrong. Little friend, you should hand over the Qilin seed. Nangong Qi shook his head. The Genesis technique clan insisted that the murderous weapon was priceless. They had won. The 4 great Genesis technique ancient clans were deeply rooted in the northern region and had great influence. Many great sects begged them for help. Naturally, there were some old friends present. Hand over the Qilin seed. You have already lost. Victory has been decided. Quickly admit defeat to Grandmaster Nangong. Why don't we call it a draw? The youngsters of the Genesis technique ancient clans and their old friends spoke one after another, exerting pressure. After all, the other party had the divine token. They wanted to advance as a retreat and call it a draw. Naturally, there were people who couldn't stand it and stood on Yi Fan's side. They began to argue on the spot, but even more people didn't care. Ridiculous. A figure silently appeared in the field. The Crimson Dragon Taoist had returned. Like a god of plague, he caused the stone garden to fall into absolute silence. Do you know the value of the far ancient Imperial clan? He calmly swept his gaze over the Genesis technique clan. There were no fluctuations, but the pressure made it hard for people to breathe. Everyone was surprised. What was the relationship between Red Dragon Taoist and Gu Feng? He was clearly standing up for him. You have clearly lost, but you still want to bully others with your power. Do you have any shame? Red Dragon Taoist's expression was indifferent. With his hands behind his back, he looked at Nangong Qi and said, If you insist on using power to reason, then I will use power to destroy you. Are you convinced? Everyone was stunned. The Crimson Dragon Taoist and Gu Feng's relationship wasn't shallow, and he was going to take action on his behalf. Many people revealed strange expressions, and even in Miaoyi, Yao Yuekong, and the Divine Children were no exception. Nangong Qi and the others turned pale. They were all stunned. This old Taoist even dared to chase after a sacred master. How could they afford to offend him? We admit defeat. Nangong Qi lowered his head and admitted defeat. Who would dare to be unconvinced by Red Dragon Taoist? Not to mention standing on the side of reason, even if there was no reason, they had to be convinced. Thank you, Senior. Yi Fan stepped forward and bowed. Red Dragon Taoist nodded, then swept his gaze across everyone. His eyes were incomparably sharp as he said, If anyone dares to harm him, it will be disrespecting me. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they heard these words. This peerless demon was so protective, who would dare to touch Gu Feng? Moreover, Yi Fan's Genesis technique was astonishing. Many great sects had long wanted to rope him in, and now they did not dare to be negligent. Little brother Gu Feng, You defeated a Genesis technique grandmaster and became famous overnight. You won millions of kilograms of Genesis energy. You must treat us to a meal. And Miaoi secretly transmitted her voice, her eyes sparkling. Even though the Chosens and Chosens were proud and arrogant, they all had their own thoughts. The other party was very likely to become the Yuan Taoist master in the future. They had to form a good relationship with him. Dong. Suddenly, the Wuxia bell rang again. The divine city resonated. Everyone revealed a look of shock. They knew that the attack on the Purple Mountain had ended. Roar. Suddenly, a terrifying roar was heard, accompanied by waves of miserable screams. What happened? Everyone's expression changed. Roar. The roar shook the heavens. It seemed that many indescribable creatures had appeared in the divine city. The attack on the Purple Mountain has ended, but this roar. Many cultivators were bewildered. Not good, the primordial creatures have appeared. Terrified shouts came from afar. The Purple Mountain has been breached. Many primordial creatures have come out and are chasing us. A warning voice cut through the sky. The divine city was in chaos. Terrifying primordial creatures had appeared and crossed the void to enter the divine city. This was terrifying news. Chapter 382. Purple Mountain's bell rang, sending bell waves through the void. An archaic creature had appeared, shaking the entire divine city. Roar. A mysterious creature roared, shaking heaven and earth, scattering the clouds in the sky. Even the divine city was shaking. No one's expression didn't change. Many people's souls were trembling. Just what kind of terrifying creature had appeared? There was definitely more than one. Miserable cries sounded from all directions of the divine city, filled with alarm. It was to the extent where one could even feel a terrifying aura from far away. What exactly did the human race experts encounter after entering Purple Mountain? How could so many archaic creatures be drawn out? Everyone was panicking. Shocking fluctuations were transmitted from the north. Killing intent rushed into the heavens. There were holy lords fighting against archaic creatures there. The clouds in all directions were swept away, and the heavens trembled violently. Just what kind of terrifying creature has come? Many people's faces became pale. Even holy lord-level figures had taken action. They had encountered a great enemy, so one could imagine how serious the situation was. The void trembled. A demonic cloud rushed over from the west. It was unknown just how many li it covered. It descended towards the divine city with a terrifying aura that made one's blood run cold. An enormous claw covered in green scales reached out from within the black cloud. It was like a small mountain as it clawed downwards. Everyone watched helplessly as the dozen or so older generation figures were crushed into a bloody mist. Their bodies and spirits were wiped out. What kind of creature is that? Just how enormous is it? All of this was horrifying. Those who saw this scene were all stupefied. Their entire bodies were drenched in cold sweat. Who could face such a powerful creature? Perhaps even holy lords would find it strenuous to face it. It was to the extent where whether or not they could stop it was another matter. The large claw reached down again. No one could stop it. Dozens of experts collapsed in the air. With a sweep, they were immediately turned into a bloody paste. Zheng zheng zheng. Ancient music sounded from the south. It wasn't gentle at all. Killing intent surged like crazy waves, and the music was like the cry of a sword. That was a white cloud. One could vaguely see a delicate woman sitting high up in the 9 heavens, strumming an ancient zither instrument. One could clearly see huge beams of light shooting down, and the zither notes were like waves, destroying everything in their path and covering the sky and earth. This was a terrifying sound of killing. It was as if a magnificent army was galloping. Endless killing intent swept out, and countless experts were pierced through. Puff, puff, puff. Corpses fell from the sky and were torn apart by the boundless murderous aura. Too terrifying, this is a humanoid figure, no one dares to go up. People were shocked to find that the south had been completely cleared. No one dared to go up and fight. The sound of the Guzheng was like a stormy sea, sweeping across the south. Boom. Purple chi came from the east, like a sea of purple magma surging over, covering the eastern direction. There was a terrifying aura rushing down from within. Bang! Right at this moment, a large purple hand pressed down, blotting out the sky and covering the sun. It was like a purple mountain smashing down, crushing a palace into pieces on the spot. Many people died a violent death. Miserable cries rose and fell, and quite a few people rushed into the sky to escape that region. However, they still couldn't escape. That large purple hand swept past, and those people were like papier-mâché. They were all ruined beyond compare, split into pieces, and then turned into a bloody paste. There are holy lords rushing up. Everyone discovered with shock that the Jiang family and Ji family's holy lords rushed up together and attacked the purple cloud. The purple energy was beaten until it flared up. The sky was like a painting scroll, releasing walala sounds and shaking violently. It was as if it could be torn apart at any time. There were powerful experts invading from all directions of the divine city. Moreover, there were even more archaic creatures that left the city to fight a great battle with the human cultivators. The various great sage lords all took action, and no one could watch with folded arms. This entire world was trembling. This was a terrifying battle, and it was unknown just how many people died. Purple Mountain, these creatures came from the Purple Mountain through the void. It's too terrifying. Many people's hearts trembled, and they wanted to escape from the divine city. However, they didn't dare to act rashly. If they were targeted by those creatures, they would definitely die. Opening the Purple Mountain is equivalent to opening a Pandora's box, releasing a peerless and ferocious demon. How are we going to deal with this? Actually, we can't blame those creatures. The Holy Lands disturbed them and startled them from their slumber. This will accelerate the loss of their life force, so they naturally chased them all the way to the divine city. This is a great disaster. I wonder how we are going to deal with it. Yi Fan was shocked. The archaic creatures of the Purple Mountain had escaped. Someone must have entered the innermost region and startled their king. Had Great Emperor Wu Shi's inheritance been obtained by someone? Although the large black dog was sure that no one could obtain it, he still had some misgivings. Had Jiang Taishu been rescued? This was also a question that he was very concerned about. Monkey, that monkey has appeared again, someone in the stone garden cried out in surprise, pointing at the horizon. Sure enough, the battle Saint Ape somersaulted high up into the sky. It stood on a cloud, and with a peerless weapon in its hand, its eyes fiery and golden. It arrived in the sky above the divine city, its expression uncertain. Clang, clang, clang. The divine city was in danger, and the south side was the most dangerous. The sound of the zither played by the delicate woman in the clouds was extremely destructive, so no one dared to charge forward. Boom! Suddenly, a crimson light soared into the sky, sweeping toward that woman. Endless divine flames formed the shape of a divine phoenix, sweeping high into the sky. At this moment, everyone in the divine city couldn't help but tremble. This was a pressure that originated from their souls, causing them to involuntarily prostrate and kneel on the ground. An extreme weapon. It's the Jiang clan's eternal universe furnace. That's right, it's a divine furnace forged from phoenix blood crimson gold. It can shatter heaven and earth, and evaporate the vast ocean. Many cultivators cried out in surprise, all of them wearing expressions of shock. Everyone was trembling, and they wanted to prostrate themselves. They couldn't help it at all, as if they were facing a god. The sound of the zither was cut off, and the woman in the clouds turned into a streak of divine light, rushing into the horizon. She dodged, not daring to face the attack at all. Is this real? She used an extreme weapon? Many of the older generation felt their hearts palpitate. Just now, it was just a show of intimidation, and she didn't truly display the might of the extreme Tao. Someone replied, "What? Such terrifying divine might appeared, and she still hasn't truly displayed it." Many cultivators were shocked. Suddenly, a dazzling radiance surged, and heaven overflowing divine might surged. Everyone trembled in fear again, almost unable to open their mouths to speak. The purple clouds in the east quickly retreated like raging waves, leaving far away from the divine city and stopping at the horizon. Many people's hearts jumped, almost falling weak onto the ground, almost unable to hold on any longer. That's G family's void mirror. Correct, someone is shaking the void mirror to intimidate the archaic creatures. It still didn't display the might of the extreme Tao, just activating a wave of pressure, yet it was already this terrifying. Everyone found it hard to imagine just how terrifying the scene would be if it was truly displayed. It can definitely pierce through heaven and earth, evaporate the vast ocean. If one has enough divine power to activate the extreme Tao weapon, they can sweep through any power in the world. This is the weapon of the ancient emperors, their divine might can be seen clearly. Yi Fan was also shaken. He thought of the underworld god palace on the icy plain, an ancient sacred land from 70 to 80,000 years ago, but it was completely flattened by the Jianghu family's invincible divine king with the eternal universe furnace. In the past, he was still skeptical, but now, it seemed that it was most likely true. The weapons of the ancient emperors were too terrifying. Another heaven overflowing fluctuation surged, and black light overflowed in all directions. Dragon roars resounded through the heaven and earth, and the supreme pressure almost broke apart this world. A holy weapon forged from black dragon-patterned gold, dragon pattern cauldron. The only extreme Tao weapon in this world that wasn't created by the hands of the ancient emperors. Everyone was shaken, and all of them were about to collapse. Under this kind of pressure, even the older generation figures almost couldn't bear it. Inside the divine city, all the holy lands held the three extreme Tao weapons of the eastern wasteland, intimidating the terrifying archaic creatures. The world finally quieted down. The invading ancient creatures all retreated to the horizon, not daring to come any closer. Both sides were in a stalemate. It's easy for you to take out the extreme Tao weapons and kill them all. Why are you only intimidating them? You make it sound so easy. If you do that, the earth will be dyed in blood, and the dark age will descend upon the eastern wasteland. Suddenly, everyone shut up. An indescribable pressure enveloped their hearts, almost making them suffocate. Many cultivators couldn't say a word. In the horizon, the archaic creatures gathered. Clouds surged, and a huge divine source appeared. There was a humanoid creature inside. Although it didn't break out of the source, it emitted a terrifying spiritual pressure. In the distance, the sacred battle ape's fur shone with golden light. It held a peerless murderous weapon in its hand, and with its fiery eyes, it turned into a cloud and disappeared in a somersault. Inside the divine city, several holy lords rushed into the sky with their extreme Tao weapons in hand, confronting the creatures. Powerful spiritual waves surged like the tide, sweeping across the sky. Both sides seemed to be discussing. Finally, a terrifying voice rang out in everyone's heart. Don't disturb our peace anymore. A huge black hole appeared in the horizon. They crossed the void and disappeared in the blink of an eye. It's too terrifying. These creatures are so powerful. It's a nightmare to be their enemy. Luckily they left. Everyone had a lingering fear in their hearts as they heaved a long sigh. In the sky above the divine city, the clouds dispersed and the sun shone down. Everything was over. Everything just now was like a dream. Yi Fan was shocked. That piece of divine source just now looked familiar. After thinking carefully, he suddenly realized. In the mine leading to the Purple Mountain, he had seen a set of wall carvings. Among them, there was a scene of great Emperor Wuxia suppressing a female archaic king. That piece of divine source just now was too similar to the one in the wall carvings. The more he thought about it, the more shocked he became. It wasn't just similar, it was exactly the same. That woman from hundreds of thousands of years ago hadn't been killed by the great emperor and was still alive? Many questions popped up in his mind, and he felt a chill run down his spine. There were 9 great dragon veins protecting the Purple Mountain. This kind of terrain was the only one in the entire eastern wasteland. It was even more terrifying than the nest of 10,000 dragons. The 9 great dragon veins all contained supreme divine sources and contained archaic creatures. They were on the same level as the terrifying existences in the divine source just now. It was hard to imagine what kind of place the Purple Mountain at the center was. After studying the Book of Source Heavenly Source, Yi Fan gradually understood that this was one of the 9 extremes of the world. It contained the extreme mysteries of the world's changes. He could only figure out the words, extreme changes, but he didn't know how to change. He couldn't comprehend it. Just what kind of supreme existence entered the Purple Mountain before the primordial age to need the terrifying existences in the 9 great dragon veins to protect it? What did Great Emperor Wuxia do after entering? Yi Fan couldn't figure it out. With the extreme mysteries of the world's changes, how did one change go? They really entered the Purple Mountain and successfully retreated. What did the Holy Lands get? The Central Plains and the Eastern Wasteland used 5 extreme weapons. They must have obtained a supreme inheritance after successfully entering the Purple Mountain. Is Divine King Jiang Taishu still alive? Was he rescued? The Divine City was in an uproar. Everyone was discussing this. On this day, the city was in an uproar. All kinds of rumors appeared. Some said that the Holy Lands obtained the secrets of the ancient emperors and saw Great Emperor Wuxia's carvings. Others said that the people of the Central Plains saw Great Emperor Wuxia's remains. After hundreds of thousands of years, they were still vivid and lifelike. Some even said that Great Emperor Wuxia didn't die at all. He was inside the Purple Mountain, sitting cross-legged on the Tao platform. Chapter 383. Emperor Wuxia's Immortal Body, Emperor Wuxia's Inheritance, Emperor Wuxia's Living Tao Platform. In the Divine City, the words Great Emperor without beginning became the most frequently mentioned words. On this day, everyone was discussing it, and there were many different opinions. No one had ever had such a great influence. As long as it was related to him, it would inevitably become the focus of everyone's attention. In addition, there was another small focus, and that was Yi Fan. He had cut out so many amazing treasures, making many people envious. Taoist Red Dragon had disappeared without a trace. Many people knew that he must be afraid. After all, he had once chased after the Sacred Lord. Now that the other party had brought out a sacred weapon, he definitely could not stay any longer. If the people from the Sacred Land blocked him here and brought the Great Emperor weapon, even if Taoist Red Dragon's methods were heaven-defying, his body and spirit would be destroyed. There was no one in this world who could resist the Great Emperor's sacred weapon. Although he had left, the people from the ancient Genesis technique families did not dare to fall out with Yi Fan. As long as Taoist Red Dragon was alive, it did not matter whether he was in front of them or not. This time, Yi Fan's harvest was too abundant. The value of the treasures he and Nangong Qi had cut out was immeasurable. They were dazzling and made people's hearts tremble. Ancient insect divine source, the head of the ancient royal family, 2 pieces of divine source the size of a human head. Just these added up to more than 1 million kilograms of pure divine source. Everyone present was stunned. Even though many people had great backgrounds and had seen many big scenes, they were still stunned. Such a huge divine treasury would make anyone's heart tremble. Even though Nangong Qi had experienced many storms, his face was pale at this moment. He felt dizzy and his heart was bleeding. He and the other 3 Genesis technique grandmasters had come to the Alcade Stone Square many days in advance. They had spent a lot of effort and almost lost their vitality to choose these 3 treasures. Who would have thought that they would still lose? Originally, he had wanted to return the treasures to the Alcade Stone Square to avoid enmity because the ancient Genesis technique families generally did not enter the Sacred Land Stone Square to gamble. But now, everything was in vain. Not only had his organs been injured, but he had also completely offended the Alcade Stone Square. This was definitely not a small problem. The wager is 1.5 million kilograms of pure source. It has to be paid with divine source. Li Heishui reminded loudly. Nangong Qi really wanted to vomit blood. Apart from the rare treasures that were cut out, he also had to give up so many source stones. Everyone is so generous and warm-hearted. I can't thank you enough. The youngsters from the ancient Genesis technique clans stared at that black face, wanting nothing more than to rush over and use the soles of their shoes to viciously measure it. Every one of them had suffered internal injuries, causing them to be unable to contain their anger. Little black brat, I'll remember you. A disciple from an ancient Genesis technique clan pointed a finger at Zhou Yuan, his body trembling. Even though these rare treasures were all sealed, there were still auspicious multicolored light radiating in all directions, making one's eyes dazzled. Their hearts were stirred up, too much for the eyes to take in. A pile of rare treasures was placed there, releasing endless brilliance, making one unable to open their eyes. Just thinking about it made one go crazy, many people developing the urge to kill and seize the treasures. This was a shocking pile of divine treasures, like a fantasy story. How many people had seen so many at once? Even the saint children and saintesses were breathing rapidly. With so many rare treasures, what couldn't he do? Establishing a sect, exchanging for scriptures, buying ancient pills, buying peerless weapons, all of these made people have the urge to commit crimes. It was too tempting. And the most precious was the Qilin seed, which wasn't counted among these rare treasures. Yi Fan had already stored it in the small white jade cauldron and sealed it. Hurry up and put it away. It's like those old men are on aphrodisiac. Their eyes are red, and they're about to pounce on us, Li Heishui muttered in a low voice. Even the saint children and saintesses had the urge to rush over and rob them, not to mention the others. Crash! Yi Fan waved his sleeve and put away all the rare treasures. Fortunately, they were all divine source. If they were pure divine source, it would be a mountain, and it would be very difficult to put them away. With the disappearance of the divine treasures, many elders rushed over and pulled. To them, the storm caused by great Emperor Wu Shi had nothing to do with them. Solving the problem of lifespan was the most pressing matter. You old men are too ruthless, Li Heishui cursed and scrambled to escape. He was almost trampled under people's feet. His clothes were almost ripped off, and his shoes were completely stomped away. In the center of the crowd, Yi Fan couldn't break free. His clothes were torn, and he couldn't stand the enthusiasm of these old men. Auction. I'll auction it in the Sky Fei treasure tower. He couldn't stand it anymore and shouted. The crowd didn't disperse, and he only managed to escape after 2 hours of entanglement. In the next 2 days, Yi Fan and Pang Bo hid in the Sky Fei treasure tower and didn't dare to go out. Otherwise, they would be surrounded wherever they went. People from all the Holy Lands had come. Their goal was clear: they wanted to buy the Qilin seed. To them, this was a priceless holy item. Conquering the Purple Mountain had caused a huge storm. Shocking news spread continuously in these 2 days, but people couldn't tell the truth from the lies. Divine King Jiang Taishu was still alive. When the news spread, the north region was shaken, and the entire eastern wasteland was shocked. This was the only news that had been confirmed. A person who lived for almost 5,000 years, he actually survived after being sealed for 4,000 years. The divine city was boiling, and many people couldn't stay calm anymore. This news was too shocking. Without a doubt, the biggest winner this time was the Jiang family. Whether or not they got the Wu Shi scripture, the Jiang family could be said to have returned from a rewarding journey. One had to know that Divine King Jiang had mastered the Battle Saint technique, which was known as the most powerful divine technique in the Eastern Wasteland. Unbelievable! He survived for 4,000 years. The Divine King's life is really tough. Now that the Jiang family has the 9 secrets, who can compete with them? No one could stay calm. The appearance of the 9 secrets dough formula shook the Eastern Wasteland. Many people coveted it and wanted to get their hands on it. The Jiang family guarded Jiang Taishu day and night with extreme weapons, afraid that he would be taken advantage of. Jiang Taishu was indeed rescued, but he was no different from a dead man. Not only was his body almost dead, but even his divine sense was almost extinguished. After being trapped for thousands of years and lacking spiritual qi, being able to survive is already the world's greatest miracle. Divine King Jiang Taishu was heroic in the past. He shocked the world at a young age, but when he was born again, he was already past his prime. Many people lamented that such a heavenly genius had ended up like this. The old Divine King was too weak to be sent back to the Jiang family. His divine sense flame could be extinguished at any time, so they could only send him to the dragon transformation pool in the Divine City. This pool was as old as the Divine City and had a miraculous healing effect. There was an illusory legend that it had once given birth to a real dragon. This was the only life-saving herb now. The Jiang family didn't stop. They brought all kinds of spiritual medicines from the family and offered sky-high prices to buy life-saving methods from the world. Naturally, the Jiang family knew that Yi Fan had cut out the qilin seed. Several highest elders came to buy it at a high price to save his life. At the same time, more people came to Yi Fan with the same purpose. They wanted to buy the qilin seed no matter the price. Some people don't want the old divine King Jiang to come back to life. Yao Yuekong saw this and immediately made this judgment. The human heart. Yi Fan nodded. Naked competition. Many people wanted to buy the qilin seed no matter the price. Many of them were unfamiliar faces and didn't even show their faces. No one knew which faction they came from. It was obvious that they wanted to make things difficult for the Jiang family. Li Heishui even suspected that if they weren't hiding in the Sky Fei treasure tower, they would be killed and the qilin seed stolen. Yi Fan didn't mind. He told the Jiang family the first time they met that the divine medicine was only for the Taishu divine king and not for anyone else. He would never forget the kindness of divine King Jiang who had imparted to him. In these 2 days, we will use all kinds of spiritual medicines to nurse the old divine king's body. When he gets better, we will need the qilin divine medicine to save his life. The highest elder of the Jiang family explained everything. For now, it was not advisable to use too strong a divine medicine to prolong his life. Yi Fan really wanted to give them the qilin seed, but before he could say anything, the highest elder of the Jiang family said that they would gather enough divine source to buy the divine medicine. He thought about it and didn't mention it again. If he took too much initiative, the Jiang family would be suspicious. At the same time, he didn't want the only qilin divine medicine in the world to go extinct. He thought of the dangua of the true dragon divine medicine he got not long ago. Maybe it could be used as a replacement. The wind blows before a storm. In these 2 days, the atmosphere in the divine city was clearly different. There was a faint sense of oppression. On the night of these 2 days, the divine city was shaken. A top expert attacked the dragon transformation pool and killed the highest elder of the Jiang family. He almost rushed in. If not for the power of the eternal universe furnace that scared the enemy away, the old divine king would have been killed. When the news spread, the divine city was shaken. Everyone was shocked. Even though everyone expected that many factions didn't want the divine king to revive, they didn't expect someone to make a move. Everyone understood that it wouldn't stop here. Perhaps this was just the beginning. The revival of the divine king had too much influence. Many factions didn't want the Jiang family to get the 9 secrets. The Jiang family acted as if they were facing a great enemy. They guarded the dragon transformation pool day and night with the extreme Dao furnace made of phoenix blood gold. When Yi Fan heard this news, he immediately invited experts from all sides to be witnesses. He handed the qilin divine medicine to the Sky Fei treasure pagoda to be auctioned. He let everyone know that he didn't have it. Otherwise, he was worried that someone would come to kill him the next night and steal the divine medicine seed. The person in the dark even dared to barge into the dragon transformation pool and offend the Jiang family, let alone a small cultivator without any background. It could be predicted that many factions had the urge to make a move. Among them, there were definitely sacred grounds participating. These were colossal figures at the top of the clouds. He didn't want to become cannon fodder for no reason. On this day, the divine city suddenly became tense. The blood and energy of the experts in the city were like dragons, faintly piercing through the blue dome of heaven. Even if they hid their auras, if too many peerless experts came, they would still form a strange reaction. Many great figures were alarmed. When night fell, one could clearly see the exuberant blood and energy rushing into the sky like dragons. The blood and energy were like dragons, piercing through the sky and earth. Seeing such a strange scene, many cultivators' expressions changed. Just what realm had one's cultivation reached to produce such a terrifying phenomenon? The divine city is a special place. Once a peerless expert comes with killing intent, there will be a reaction from the heavens at night and it will truly appear. An older generation figure said. Without a doubt, many terrifying figures had appeared in the city. They might launch a thunderous attack. Yi Fan handed the divine medicine seed to someone for safekeeping in front of many people. He ran out on the same day, not daring to stay in the Sky Fei Treasure Pagoda any longer. However, he couldn't stay out of it. After all, the divine medicine was his. As soon as he came out, he received invitations from various factions. Even Li Heishui was shocked. He said in surprise, "You've really become a hot commodity. All the sacred grounds have people inviting you." Yi Fan also felt a headache. The saints and saintesses all sent invitations, and the descendants of the various sects also sent invitations. It's not good to offend any of them. Which one should I go to? All the factions were trying to rope him in, so he needed to think carefully about how to handle this. Li Heishui was startled. He pointed at the pink invitation and said, "And Miaoi invited you. It's clear that she wants you to be her guest." Chapter 384. The night sky was like water pouring down. Streams of blood chi that pierced through heaven and earth rose into the sky like giant dragons. When will I have such a cultivation? Yi Fan murmured to himself as he walked on the street. Li Heishui sighed. This is a group of ruthless people. I'm sure there are at least a few divine lords among them. They really want to kill the old divine king, Jiang Taishu. They are indeed audacious. Logically speaking, with the eternal universe divine furnace protecting him, the old divine king's life shouldn't be in danger. But why do I feel that something is wrong? Yi Fan frowned. Don't tell me those people have an extreme weapon? Li Heishui was shocked. If that was the case, the divine city might be wiped out. Yi Fan shook his head. No one would come with an extreme weapon. That would expose their identity. There will be shocking changes in the divine city in the next few days. It won't pass peacefully. Not long after they came out, they were discovered. The two quickly rose into the air and headed for the Shueyue little house, afraid of being surrounded. Yi Fan couldn't refuse the Xia prince's invitation. When Nangong Qi made things difficult for him, Xia Yiming and Yao Yuekong both spoke up to help him. The Shueyue little house hung in the night sky. The scenery was elegant, but it was different from other places. There were no jade palaces or magnificent palaces. It was a different world, a small space that was close to nature. There were bamboo forests and a sea of green pines. Moonlight spilled down, and quiet springs gurgled. The Shueyue little house, Miaoyu Nunnery, and Guanghan Tower were the three most elegant places in the divine city. It was a gentle place that could wear down a hero's ambition. But the style was very different. Many people saw it as a pure land where they could find peace of mind, far away from the noise of the mortal world. In fact, it was indeed so. The silver moon hung high in the sky, the pines were picturesque, clear springs flowed on rocks, and the wooden buildings dotted the landscape. It really was like transcending the world. There was a kind of tranquility outside of the three realms. It was hazy, quiet, and beautiful. Don't tell me the Xia prince wants to invite us? Li Heishui asked. How is that possible? He has a little tail behind him, so he doesn't dare to do anything. Yi Fan smiled. Speaking of which, that little nun in white is really clingy. She follows her brother all the time. They have a good relationship. Yi Fan also laughed and said, that little nun is cultivating in the secular world. Her long hair has already grown out. They entered the clear spring forest and was led to a wooden building by the people of the Shueyue Little. They soon met a few familiar faces. Yi Fan's heart jumped and he nearly left. The Ji family's god King Body was here. If he sensed something, it would be a huge problem. Other than that, there was also Little Moon, the Little Nun, the Prince of Great Xia, and Yao Yuekong from the Ji clan. They weren't in the wooden tower, but on a high platform, drinking wine while facing the moon. How can 3 cups be enough? It's not enough to moisten your throats. 3 jars or more like it. The great Xia prince laughed. Please spare the 2 of us. The moonlight was like a large expanse of pure white moonlight sprinkling on the pine forest. The high platform was level with the treetops, so one could watch the moon and enjoy the quiet and beautiful scenery. In the distance, the sound of the zither was indistinct. A few young girls danced in the moonlight like Chang, flying to the moon. It was extremely hazy and moving. It's really difficult to invite Brother Gu. I haven't seen you for several days. Ji Haoyue smiled. His eyebrows were like swords and his eyes were like stars. Because of the divine medicine seed, I don't dare to go out, Yi Fan explained. At the same time, he asked what the Holy Lands had obtained after the Purple Mountain was breached. Could it be that he really obtained the legacy of great Emperor Wuxia? Li Heishui also asked, I heard that someone saw the corpse of great Emperor Wuxia. It was extremely lifelike. Ji Haoyue shook his head and said, although my Ji family also attacked the Purple Mountain, I don't know the real situation. However, I heard that we did discover some of the great emperor's secrets, so we retreated from the Purple Mountain. Yi Fan's expression changed and he said, someone said that great Emperor Wuxia is sitting on the platform and is still alive. This can't be true, right? I also hope so, but it's most likely impossible. No one can live for so long. Ji Haoyue shook his head. Little Yuan Taoist master, you can't come empty-handed. It's fine if you don't give us gifts, but how can you not give little Guai a gift? Ji Ziyue's smile was very sweet. The moonlight shone on her face. On the other side, on the little nun's shoulder, the little golden creature was staring at Yi Fan. It was shining with golden light and seemed very intelligent. Yi Fan immediately laughed and said, this little fellow is too vengeful. It can't forget that piece of source. That's little Guai's source. Of course it won't forget, the little nun in white mumbled. Yi Fan took out a dozen divine source beans and placed them on his palm. The divine silkworm instantly couldn't sit still and wanted to take them. However, it was a little angry and rolled its eyes at Yi Fan. I'm giving you divine source out of kindness, but you're still staring at me like this. I'm not giving it to you. Yi Fan teased it. A beam of golden light shot out from its body and swept away the dozen divine source beans. It hid behind the little nun and Ji Ziyue and looked at Yi Fan suspiciously. Everyone present was very shocked. Even Ji Haoyue said, if this divine art is cultivated to great success, won't you be able to rob everything? You're a natural thief, Yi Fan said with a smile. Very soon, everyone changed the topic to Jiang Taishu. No one mentioned who wanted to kill the divine king because it was too sensitive. They were only discussing how powerful the 9 secrets were, how magical the dragon transformation pool was, and how extraordinary divine King Jiang was. The great Xia prince and Ji Haoyue both wanted to buy the divine medicine seed. They tactfully mentioned it to Yi Fan, saying that the price was negotiable. Yi Fan couldn't promise anything. He just said his difficulties and pushed everything to the Sky Demon Treasure Palace auction. Ji Haoyue looked up at the starry sky and said, everyone, how far do you think the other side of the starry sky is from our world? Are there cultivators there too? Why did Brother Haoyue mention this? The Sky Demon Palace young master asked in puzzlement. I was just feeling emotional for a moment. Ji Haoyue shook his head. Yi Fan's heart shook. He felt that something might have happened to a classmate who came to this world with him. Someone in the southern region had leaked the heavenly secrets. There are indeed guests from the outer realm. Our great Xia ancient books mentioned it. The great Xia prince nodded. Oh, please tell me, Brother Xia. Yi Fan was eager to know. The great Xia prince shook his head and said, I only heard it mentioned by a mysterious ancestor. Now, if that divine physique comes from the outer realm, do you think he can break the curse? Ji Haoyue asked again. Yi Fan's heart skipped a beat, but he quickly calmed down. He didn't want to reveal any flaws. He had a bad feeling that someone in the southern region had really leaked the heavenly secrets. The southern region had been away for a long time. I wonder how those old friends are now. Yi Fan thought of many things. Only late at night did Yi Fan and Li Heishui leave. They then went to Miaoyu Nunnery to keep their appointment. In the end, Li Heishui was stopped and led to a palace. He was very dissatisfied that he couldn't see in Miaoyu. Although he was invited into the palace by Yi Fan and could be considered a guest behind closed doors, Yi Fan wouldn't have any thoughts. Within Miaoyu's shrewdness, she would rather choose the Son of God than him. In fact, this was indeed the case. And Miaoyu's performance was just right. In the end, it was for the divine medicine seed. The descendants of Miaoyu Nunnery always had an inexplicable relationship with some of the most powerful sons of God, which was of great benefit to the development of Miaoyu Nunnery. Yi Fan keenly sensed that Miaoyi seemed to be standing up for someone by buying the Qilin seed from him. He smiled and responded tactfully. When they left Miaoyu nunnery, it was already late at night. After listening to Yi Fan's narration, Li Heishui sighed and said, "Little Yi Fan is very unfortunate. You failed to be chosen. You definitely can't become her guest behind closed doors." "What nonsense are you talking about? I'm telling the truth. And Miaoyi might be making a decision now. All the descendants of Miaoyu nunnery have done so. Let me think who she will choose. It must be a powerful son of God." Li Heishui pondered carefully. This kind of woman is too utilitarian. What's there to think about? Yi Fan shook his head. Although you have a chance to become the Yuan Taoist master in the future, there are many variables. Most importantly, you have no background and can't be compared to the sons of God. Li Heishui judged. If the Yao Guang saint hadn't been suppressed, I think Miaoyi would have chosen him. It's hard to guess now. I don't know who it will be, but I think she has already made up her mind. You really have nothing to do. Yi Fan shook his head. The next day, Yi Fan began to invite the sons and daughters of God to a banquet. He couldn't attend them one by one, so he could only invite them instead. He didn't know what kind of expression these people would have when they found out one day that he had a saint body. Now, many people in Divine City called him the little Yuan Taoist master and were trying their best to rope him in. In the future, when his true identity was exposed, it would most likely be a different scene. Yi Fan had never expected this day to come so quickly. In the afternoon of that day, when he appeared in the stone square of the Holy Land, a white-haired old man appeared in the same stone garden, accompanied by Nangong Qi and several other Genesis technique grandmasters. "You've changed your appearance?" The old man was leaning on a walking stick and looked old. No one knew how old he was, but he was as thin as a stick and looked like a skeleton. "Who are you?" Yi Fan's heart skipped a beat. He was shocked to find that the old man had almost cultivated the heavenly eye. 2 rays of light shot out from the old man's murky eyes and saw through his true appearance. Nangong Qi scolded, "Don't be rude. This is Senior Ouyang Yi of the Genesis technique world, the only person who is infinitely close to the level of a source master in countless years. An earth master was a far cry from a heavenly master. This old man with terrifying Genesis technique had cultivated for God knows how many years, but he was only infinitely close to the level of an earth master. One could imagine how high the level of the Yuan Taoist master was. You know the grand method of changing heaven and earth, so you must have obtained the Book of Origin." Ouyang Yi was all skin and bones, so he couldn't be any older. However, at that moment, 2 terrifying rays of light shot out from his eyes, and they were extremely hot. "What do you want by stopping me?" Yi Fan was shocked. The only thing that made him feel slightly at ease was that the old man had lived in seclusion for many years and hadn't come out for a long time. He had never seen the portrait of the sacred body of the ancients and didn't know him. "We asked Grandmaster Ouyang to come out of seclusion because we want to give you some pointers." Nangong Qi smiled meaningfully. "All right, no problem. See you tomorrow at the Dian Stone Square." Yi Fan agreed without hesitation and turned to leave. He didn't want to stay a moment longer since his identity had been exposed. He pulled Li Heishui to a deserted place and took out the mysterious jade platform, preparing to cross the void. However, he failed. He was shocked to find that he couldn't cross the void at all. Inside the Dian Stone Square, Nangong Qi asked, "Grandmaster Ouyang, you said that he changed his appearance. What does he look like?" Ouyang Yi pressed his right hand in the void, and a real body appeared. It was Yi Fan's original appearance. "It's him, the sacred body of the ancients. How is this possible? It's him." The young people of the Genesis technique ancient family, as well as Nangong Qi and the other grandmasters, were all stunned. They were extremely shocked. They never thought that it would be Yi Fan. The sacred body of the ancients caused havoc in the northern region and caused endless disturbances. He even killed young experts from sacred grounds. Even they had seen his portrait. "Go after him. Don't let him get away. Gu Feng is Yi Fan, and he has the sacred body of the ancients." Nangong Qi shouted, and his voice traveled dozens of miles. The other party had a holy item on him, And he even had the Book of Origin. This was a living divine treasure, and they had to capture it. Such a loud roar was heard by many cultivators in the divine city, and they were all shocked and bewildered. The disciples of the Genesis technique ancient family roared and explained to the people what had just happened. The area was suddenly in an uproar, and all the cultivators chased after him. He can't get away. The Jianghu family suppressed the divine city with the ultimate weapon, the eternal universe divine furnace. He can't leave. Go after him. We must find him. The streets were in chaos. Many cultivators shouted and searched everywhere. 2 hours later, many people heard the news, and the divine city was shaken. Gu Feng is Yi Fan. Oh my God, the famous Gu Feng in the divine city is actually that sacred body of the ancients. This is too shocking. When the saints and virgins heard the news, they were dumbfounded. The person they were chasing actually appeared right under their noses, and he even drank with them at the same table. Chapter 385. Everyone else in the city was also dumbfounded. What did it mean for the sacred land of the ancients to obtain the inheritance of the Yuan Taoist master? The result was mind-blowing. How dare he? How dare he? How bold of him to come to the divine city to gamble and engage in a different kind of Genesis technique battle with all the sacred grounds. Using the enemy's stone square to strengthen himself and make a name for himself in the divine city. The sacred body of the ancients is really amazing. The elders and many young heroes were all stunned. The result made their mouths dry up. The sacred body of the ancients was too bold. In order to protect the old divine king, the Jianghu family sealed the dragon transformation pool with the eternal universe cauldron. At the same time, they kept expanding until the entire divine city was sealed. This was to deter the people in the dark. Anyone who dared to attack would have to think twice first. With the divine city sealed, no one could leave. The Jianghu family could carry out a massacre with the eternal universe cauldron. This was domineering. The unique domineering of the clan of the ancients. They dared to offend the divine king and did not hesitate to kill all the powerhouses in the divine city. It was also because of this that Yi Fan could not travel through the void. The entire divine city was sealed today, and no one could enter or leave. It's over. We can't leave. The divine city is sealed. Li Heishui broke out in a cold sweat. Yi Fan quickly used the heaven and earth transformation technique to change his appearance, then helped Li Heishui change his true appearance. After mastering the Genesis technique, he was no longer the same as before. Although he still could not change the landscape of the mountains and rivers, changing the appearance of a few people was a piece of cake. As long as we don't meet Ouyang Yi, no one will recognize us. However, we can't be together anymore. We have to separate. But that old man is obviously not easy to deal with. He is infinitely close to becoming a source master. It's shocking that he has almost opened the eye of heaven. I don't think we can hide from him for long. Li Heishui frowned. Yi Fan massaged his temples. He knew that he was in big trouble. If he could not come up with a solution, he would definitely die. Brother Heishui, you have the old man's divine order. Even if they find you, they won't dare to do anything to you. Li Heishui said, I'm fine. The problem is you. If you are exposed, even the Red Dragon Taoist won't be able to protect you. I will think of a way to avoid Ouyang Yi. Yi Fan frowned. That's not a solution. Didn't you hear? They're determined to get their hands on the Book of Source Heaven. How long can you hide from them if the divine city is sealed? Li Heishui paced back and forth. How about asking for help from the Sky Demon Palace? I think Yao Yuekong is a good person. Yi Fan shook his head. At this time, we can only rely on ourselves. What a pity, the Qilin seed was placed in the Sky Fei treasure tower. Li Heishui sighed. Yi Fan was calm. He rubbed his chin and said, I have an idea. What is it? Yi Fan whispered a few words to him. After Li Heishui heard this, he firmly objected. It's too risky. If we fail, it's the same as sending a sheep into the tiger's mouth. This is the only way. Maybe I can forge a future for myself. I won't have to be hunted down anymore. Yi Fan nodded firmly. Little Yi Zi, you can't take such a risk. Yi Fan made up his mind and said, Don't worry, the heavens can't stop me. Brother Heishui, hurry up and leave. Let's split up and avoid being discovered. The news that Gu Feng was Yi Fan and had the sacred body of the ancients shook the entire divine city. The entire city was in an uproar. Many cultivators could not believe it. Little brother Gu Feng. Yao Yuekong was dumbfounded. I didn't expect it either. The Xia prince was speechless for a while. He suddenly thought of many things. The little golden elf on the little nun's shoulder rolled its big black eyes, pulled the little nun's hair, and gestured for a while. Xiao Guai, are you saying that you already knew he could change his appearance? The little nun's face was as red as an apple as she asked the silkworm. What's going on? The Xia prince asked. Xiao Guai said that he saw Gu Feng in seclusion and using many sources to increase his cultivation, the little nun explained. That little rascal already knew all this. Why didn't he tell us? The Xia prince was shocked. The silkworm rolled its eyes at him and pretended to look at the sky. It stood on the little nun's shoulder and ignored everything around it. Beside it, Ji Ziyue mumbled softly, it really is him. He also likes to touch his chin. Ziyue, what are you talking about? Ji Haoyue asked. Nothing. Ji Ziyue grabbed the little golden creature. The little nun in white pouted while the little golden creature protested silently. However, when it saw a god source swaying in front of it, it stuck to Ji Ziyue's side without any sense of loyalty. In Miaoyu nunnery, and Miaoyu was just as shocked. She pondered for a long time before giggling. As for the saints, many of them took action right away and searched the divine city. This time, they were really disgraced. They had been drinking and chatting merrily with the hunted, but they were still speechless when they thought about it. The people of the Alcade Stone Workshop were flustered and exasperated. They finally understood why Yi Fan chose that place to gamble on stones. He was making an example out of them. Gu Feng of the Divine City is Yi Fan. Who is the one outside leading the big black dog to rob the sources? Damn it, we've been tricked by them. Except for that black dog that keeps clamoring for human pets, everything else is fake. That damned black dog. Many people gnashed their teeth at the mention of the Black Emperor. For many disciples of the Holy Lands, he was a black nightmare. At this moment, the people from the ancient Genesis families were the most aggressive. Nangong Qi and the others searched everywhere, wanting to dig out Yi Fan. The temptation of the Book of Source of Heaven was too great. To them, it was a supreme ancient scripture. It had to be said that Ouyang Yi was extremely terrifying. Although he did not have much life left, after mastering the Genesis techniques, he was not inferior to the top masters. He was like a ghost, flashing left and right in the divine city. He borrowed the dragon chi under the earth for his own use. After his cultivation was close to that of an earth source master, as long as the earth existed, he could use endless divine techniques. In his eyes, two divine lights pierced through heaven and earth. Nothing could hide from them. He had almost mastered the heavenly eye. He has the sacred body of the ancients. Even if the red dragon Taoist came back, he would not be able to protect him. This time, we can kill him openly. All the Holy Lands will be happy to see it. The Book of Source of Heaven, the supreme scripture that has been lost for many years, has finally seen the light of day again. We must get it. The disciples of the ancient Genesis families were emboldened. Now that Yi Fan's identity had been exposed, they had nothing to fear even if they killed him. The entire divine city was stirred. All the saints and countless cultivators were looking for Yi Fan, but there was no trace of him. He can't escape. I'm going to use him to refine medicine. A 13 or 14-year-old boy flew across the sky, and many people retreated. He was dressed in white and spotless. His hair was black and shiny, and his skin was as white as snow. His eyes were like black gems, and his lips were red and teeth were white. He was very handsome, and his appearance would make women jealous. It was Xia Jiuyo. In less than half a day, everyone in the divine city received the news. Most people were out to search. If they could take this opportunity to catch Yi Fan, the benefits would be endless. He had the myriad chi cauldron, the dragon-patterned black gold Holy Spirit sword, the Book of Source of Heaven, and many divine sources. He was simply a huge divine treasury. Yi Fan discovered that he was about to become Xuanzang's flesh. Almost everyone wanted to take a bite out of him. To him, the biggest threat was Ouyang Yi. Those eyes could penetrate the void and see through all obstacles. As long as one was close to them, there was nowhere to hide. Yi Fan had already separated from Li Heishui. He changed his appearance and clothes and walked in the sea of people, staying far away from the areas where Ouyang Yi appeared. In the end, he arrived at the western part of the Divine City. There was a magnificent building here, and the dragon transformation pool was inside. Now, it was heavily guarded by the Jiang clan. As soon as he approached, he felt a terrifying pressure. The Eternal Universe Divine Furnace was forged with phoenix blood and gold. Its name was famous since ancient times. Now, it was inside the dragon transformation pool, sealing the entire Divine City. "Who are you?" a middle-aged man shouted. There was no mediocre person here. They were all experts of the Jiang clan. Apart from Jiang Yifei, Jiang Kaixin, and a few others of the younger generation, the others were not qualified at all. They were all elders. The Jiang clan seeks the method to extend its life from the whole world. "I'm here to save Divine King Jiang Taishu," Yi Fan said calmly. "What method do you have?" The middle-aged man was startled, but his eyes quickly blossomed with two oppressive beams of light as he stared at Yi Fan. He had to be cautious. This was a critical period. Someone had already come to kill the old Divine King, and even a Grand Supreme Elder died because of it. If it wasn't for the Eternal Universe Furnace, that terrifying expert would have succeeded. "Invite the esteemed guest in," an old man transmitted his voice. Yi Fan strode into the palace garden and saw even more experts. They were all on standby, guarding all four directions. Everyone had a solemn expression. He passed through 9 halls and came to a garden. This place was verdant and verdant. There was a small stone bridge built across the flowing water. Wisteria coiled around it, and strange stones were laid out. The scenery was beautiful. "Little friend, what good method do you have?" An old man stood in front of him. He wore a moon-white robe and had a kind and benevolent countenance. It was impossible to tell how old he was. "I have 3 good methods that can revive the old Divine King." Yi Fan was very confident. "Is this true?" The old man's eyes shot out 2 beams of light as he sized up Yi Fan, wanting to see through his entire body. Yi Fan's heart jumped. This was a Divine Lord-level figure, a powerhouse. It could be speculated that he was either the Jiang clan's Divine Lord or a top-notch figure from Divine King Jiang Taishu's bloodline. The Jiang clan was divided into 2 branches. Although there were few descendants from the Divine King's bloodline, each of them had amazing magic power and was enough to control the situation. "My first good method is half a bottle of Divine Spring," Yi Fan said. He took out a jade gourd and shook it. The sound of water came from inside, and he handed it over without a care. The old man took it with a wave of his hand. He opened the gourd and was shocked. He nodded and said, "All right, I'm Jiang Yun, a descendant of the Divine King. Little friend, come with me." This was the authentic Divine Spring. It was taken from the forbidden land of antiquity and stored in a jade bottle. There was less than half a bowl left, and it had almost been used up. "Senior Jiang, aren't you afraid that I'm here to kill the old Divine King?" Yi Fan asked. "I'm not afraid." Yi Fan and Jiang Yun walked into the underground palace and went deep into the earth. The dragon transformation pool was underground. The underground palace was shrouded in clouds and mist, and a holy aura assaulted their faces. Dragon chi surged under the earth, and divine power circulated. Of course, there was also a soul-stirring pressure. There was no doubt that it was the divine sun cauldron. Although no one was activating it, it was still frightening to the soul. When Yi Fan entered the depths of the underground palace, the divine city was in chaos. Everyone was looking for his whereabouts, and many wanted to kill him and take the life of the sacred body of the ancients. However, no one knew that he had come to the dragon transformation pool and entered the most heavily guarded place in the divine city. The divine sun cauldron made of phoenix blood gold guarded the place, and only peerless masters dared to enter. A group of old men were meditating in the underground palace, occupying various important positions. They were either the supreme elders of the Jiang family or the grandmasters with frightening identities. The ground was not dark, and there was a dragon transformation pool in the deepest part of the underground palace. The water in the pool was milky white and exceptionally crystal clear. There was a skeleton-like body in the middle. Its flesh and blood had completely dried up, and there was no luster at all. It was wrapped around the bones. He lay motionless in the dragon transformation pool as if he had long lost his life. There was no sign of life at all, and he was no different from a piece of dead wood. Was this the divine king Jiang Taishu? Yi Fan could hardly believe his eyes. There were too many rumors about him, and it was difficult to connect them with what he was seeing. In the past, Jiang Taishu was as handsome as jade, and his combat strength was earth-shattering. No matter where he went, he attracted attention and was a peerless hero. Thinking back to more than 4,000 years ago, he was full of heroism and looked down on the world. Looking at him now, he was like a withered firewood, thin and weak. How sad was this? A beauty past her prime and a hero at the end of his life were the most helpless sorrows in the world. He was a genius with a stunning appearance. He was supposed to be the pride of his generation, but he ended up like this. It made people sigh and weep. Chapter 386. The dragon transformation pool was sparkling and translucent. The pool water was milky white, and a sweet fragrance wafted out. That withered body was motionless, as if its vitality had been completely extinguished. Since ancient times, beauties have lamented the passing of their prime, and heroes are not allowed to see their white hair. Jiang Taishu's fate was full of misfortunes. He was a hero at the end of his road. He no longer had the heroic bearing to look down on the world. All he had left was endless sorrow. Yi Fan was greatly indebted to him for learning the fighting character formula of the 9 secrets. Now that he had seen his real body, he was quite shocked. The Divine King was already at the end of his rope, yet he still managed to pass down his teachings through the wall. Just how strong was his willpower to support him to such an extent? Everything was for the sake of passing down the 9 secrets and not wanting them to be lost. After thinking through this problem, Yi Fan felt a heartfelt respect for the old God King. His body had almost withered to death, and his divine will had also been obliterated. Who could do something like that? Everything that Jiang Taishu had done could be described as a miracle. He had forcibly transformed the stone wall into a peerless secret technique. The divine king is in such a state. Yi Fan frowned. Even with the divine spring and life-saving medicine, the situation didn't look optimistic. We've been treating him with spirit herbs for the past few days, but there's almost no effect. Jiang Yun frowned. They already reserved the divine medicine seed, but they feared that the medicinal strength would be too ferocious. The old divine king was so weak, unable to endure it. They immediately fell into a dilemma. Furthermore, he had already received reports that the owner of the seed of the miracle medicine was the sacred body of the ancients, shocking the entire divine city. Now that he was being hunted down, his whereabouts were unknown. Whether or not the auction could continue had become a mystery. Let's use the divine spring, Yi Fan said. No one knew better than him how powerful the miraculous effects of the divine spring were. In the past, his lifespan was exhausted in the ancient desolate forbidden land, and he almost died. Later on, he dove into the divine spring with great difficulty. After soaking for half a day, he slowly recovered and regained his vitality. This spring water. Jiang Yun's heart was not calm. The eastern wasteland had 7 great life-restricted areas, and only in the depths of these places could there be a divine spring. There was almost no way to take it out. Undying Mountain and other places were too vicious. This is a great favor. Jiang Yun cupped his hands in a serious manner. Who would selflessly give the divine spring to others? This was a rare life-saving water that could save one's life. Senior, there's no need for that. Hurry up and save the God King, replied Yi Fan. 9 figures silently appeared in the depths of the underground palace. All of them were extremely old, and their hair was as white as snow. It was difficult to determine their true ages. The 9 elders looked at the divine spring. They all nodded and revealed looks of joy. Then, they surrounded the dragon transformation pond and silently sat down. The jade gourd hovered above the dragon transformation pool and crystal clear liquid dripped down from it. The 9 old men's heads shot out innate divine rays at the same time and merged with the liquid, turning it into innate essence that entered the old deity king's withered body. The amount of the holy spring was too little, no more than half a bowl at most. They didn't want to waste any of its energy. The 9 old men worked together, refining only 1 drop at a time and injecting it into Jiang Taishu's body bit by bit. When Yi Fan saw this, he couldn't help sweating. In the past, he had truly been too wasteful. He had treated the divine spring as water, drinking it in large gulps. When had he ever been so meticulous? This half a bowl of divine spring was refined until late at night, but it still hadn't run out. It was still slowly progressing. The 9 old men's faces were all pale, and they were about to collapse. They were really diligent, activating their innate life force and merging it into the divine spring to prolong the old deity king's life. After all, the spring water wasn't a divine medicine. It could be used to nourish the body, but it wasn't a divine item that could truly change one's fate. Ding. The bell rang loudly, echoing through the heaven and earth. The vast underground palace was shaken, and the people in front of the dragon transformation pool changed their expressions. A supreme expert has come to invade. Who's this? The eternal universe divine furnace is suppressing the dragon transformation pool, and he still dares to come and kill the deity king. What kind of terrifying character is he? Even the great expert Jiang Yun's expression changed. If the enemy dared to come, he definitely had no fear and had a way to escape unscathed. Yi Fan was also shocked. There were indeed many ruthless people in this world. They didn't want Jiang Taishu to come back to life and even wanted to charge in even with a supreme Dao weapon guarding this place. Take out the eternal universe divine furnace. Jiang Yun ordered. He himself stood in front of the dragon transformation pool, not moving at all. He guarded the place, not willing to take a step away. It was obvious that there was a special expert controlling the divine furnace. The void rumbled like a rag being violently shaken by someone. Even the underground palace was affected, as if a great earthquake had occurred. Only the dragon transformation pool could be considered calm. At this moment, everyone in the divine city was shocked. Looking from afar, scarlet clouds rushed into the heavens and phoenix cries shook the sky. It was as if a divine phoenix was born from the flames, soaring between the 9 heavens and 10 earths. An unimaginable pressure enveloped the entire city in an instant. No one could resist it, and many people fell limply to the ground at almost the same time. Many cultivators' souls trembled, and they couldn't help but bow down. This was completely involuntary, as if they were facing a deity filled with natural reverence. Extreme divine might. Everyone was stunned. They were tongue-tied and couldn't say a single word. Many of the older figures' lips were trembling. The divine sun furnace made of phoenix blood gold became the only one in the world. No one had seen its true appearance, but its pressure was transmitted into everyone's bones, and they would never forget it for the rest of their lives. How could humans resist this kind of divine might? Flesh and blood couldn't withstand it at all. No one could. From this, one could see the supreme grace of the great ancient emperors. It was because this was only their weapon, and it was far from representing themselves. In the depths of the underground palace, beside the dragon transformation pool, Yi Fan was also stunned, but he wasn't suppressed. This place was very calm, but his heart still pounded. So this is the extreme divine might. He muttered to himself. This isn't the extreme divine might. It merely revived the divine furnace and didn't unleash any power, Jiang Yun said. The eternal universe divine furnace's terrifying power still hasn't been displayed? Yi Fan was truly stunned. He already couldn't imagine just how powerful an extreme Dao weapon was. Before this, he had heard others say that it could shatter heaven and earth and evaporate oceans. He had thought that it was an exaggeration, but now, it seemed that it wasn't too exaggerated. It truly possessed supreme might that was difficult to estimate. An extreme Dao holy weapon is only a dead object in the hands of an ordinary person. Only a supreme existence can revive it, and if one wants to unleash divine might, they need even greater divine force, Jiang Yun said. This. Yi Fan was in a daze. If a divine lord level character had such a weapon, They could indeed move unhindered under the heavens, and they wouldn't need to fear anyone. All invaders have been annihilated and turned into powder. However, they aren't real people, but 4 ancient corpses. Someone came to the dragon transformation pool to report. Is there anything particular about those ancient corpses? Jianghu asked. Conservatively speaking, they are all ancient supreme existences that have already passed away. There is a terrifying character controlling them. Everyone beside the dragon transformation pool sucked in a cold breath. The corpses of ancient supreme existences weren't that easy to find, and this person actually had 4 of them. He was definitely a terrifying expert with a terrifying background. Jianghu sensed the seriousness of the situation and said, he didn't hesitate to destroy 4 powerful incarnations. This is completely a test. This is a terrifying enemy. Someone at the side was doubtful and said, could it be that he has the confidence to break through the extreme Dao weapon? Unless he's a great emperor. Jiang Yun's expression was solemn as he shouted, pass down the order for everyone to be on high alert, especially in front of the divine sun furnace. Other than me, if anyone else dares to approach, no matter who it is, destroy them with the extreme divine might. Someone timidly wanted to say something. I already said that no matter who he is, if he dares to approach, kill him without question. Jiang Yun's expression was ice-cold and solemn. In the latter half of the night, the bell rang out once more, shaking the entire divine city and waking everyone up. The underground palace was thrown into chaos. More people had come to invade. It was a pair of humanoid weapons that had been raised with their own blood essence. They had already formed the power of laws and were turned to ash by the divine eternal universe furnace. They aren't the same group of people, but they are equally terrifying. If they are willing to bring out such a weapon, then they must be at least a Holy Lord-level powerhouse. The underground palace was filled with tension, as if a storm was brewing. Everyone could feel the seriousness of the situation and there were constantly people coming to probe. It was almost certain that sooner or later there would be a thunderous strike. What are they relying on? How are they going to resist the divine sun furnace? How are they going to resist the great emperor's holy weapon? The people from the Jiang family were puzzled. I fear this is going to be troublesome. Jianghu revealed a worried expression. Someone might come with an extreme Dao weapon to resist my Jiang family's Saint Furnace. What? How is that possible? Do they want to start a war between the Holy Lands? All the elders in front of the dragon transformation pond were stunned. Yi Fan was also dumbfounded. The situation had actually developed to this point, and there was going to be a confrontation between extreme Dao holy weapons. This was earth-shattering news, enough to shake the world. How many tens of thousands of years has it been since a war between the Holy Lands has occurred? Do they really want the earth to flow with rivers of blood? A divine king of my Jiang family has been resurrected. Is there really a need to go to war like this? Are they not afraid that the earth will return to its darkest era? The elders of the Jiang family were all shocked, and they all revealed incomparably solemn expressions. One is for the 9 secrets, and the second is that someone might be deliberately provoking a war between the Holy Lands. Jianghu frowned. The people who were taking action were not necessarily the peak powerhouses of the Eastern Wasteland. It was even possible that they were extraordinary characters from other regions. This was what Jianghu was truly worried about. This night was incomparably tense. The strength of the enemy was beyond their expectations. If someone came with an extreme Dao holy weapon and a war broke out, the divine city would no longer exist. When dawn was about to break, an extremely terrifying pressure came from the depths of the underground palace. The expressions of the Jiang family members all changed. They were all too familiar with this. This was the awakening of the great emperor's holy weapon. Quick, activate the eternal universe divine furnace. Jianghu shouted. Are they crazy? They really dare to use an extreme Dao holy weapon to resist. Who is it? Doesn't they know the terrifying consequences? The elders of the Jiang family all changed their expressions. Buzz! The void trembled, and heaven and earth were pierced. A vast pressure surged over and rushed into the depths of the underground palace. The eternal universe divine furnace made of phoenix blood gold shone brightly and was also awakening. A divine phoenix soared into the sky, and the phoenix's cry shook the 9 heavens, resounding through the clouds. What kind of extreme Dao holy weapon is this? The Jiang family members were all shocked. Above the underground palace, that holy weapon was quickly awakening. Boundless divine might surged like a vast ocean, causing the dragon transformation pond to shake. The milky white pond water splashed high into the sky. Protect the divine king old ancestor. They are really crazy. They are willing to go to war with the Holy Lands. Do they want to return to the Dark Era? Our Jiang family is not afraid. Many people shouted. They had decided to fight with their lives on the line. No matter how powerful the invading enemy was, they would not retreat. Chapter 387. While the depths of the underground palace violently trembled. Everyone almost fell onto the ground. The dragon transformation pool splashed about, and Jiang Taishu was almost sent flying. Jiang family's people were greatly alarmed. Several elders took action, each releasing a strand of innate life essence into the old divine king's body. At the same time, they stabilized the dragon transformation pool. The mysterious great emperor's sacred weapon revived, surging like a vast ocean, piercing through heaven and earth. Many people were almost torn to pieces, unable to endure this type of extreme divine might. If not for the sun divine furnace suppressing this place, everything would no longer exist, definitely turning into ashes. Despite this being the case, the underground palace was still riddled with holes. The eternal universe divine furnace released a soft cry, releasing endless radiance. The scarlet gold divine phoenix rushed into the sky. It was also reviving, resisting the other great emperor's sacred weapon, moreover occupying the initiative. The underground palace finally calmed down, surrounded by the phoenix blood scarlet gold's radiance. Within a type of divine scarlet light, it was full of warm divine force. However, the outside world was already boiling, as if the Milky Way of the 9 heavens was descending. Divine multicolored light shot in all directions, scarlet light curling about in the sky. Even the divine city seemed to be burning. At this moment, the entire city was terrified, not a single person able to remain calm. Most people fell weakly onto the ground. This type of power was too great, almost no one able to endure it. Meanwhile, all of this was because the 2 sacred weapons were reviving. They still hadn't displayed their extreme divine might, or else the entire divine city would become the dust of history under a single strike. Who exactly is it? Are they really going to face the Jiang family's divine furnace head-on? Heavens, what happened? Someone came with an extreme weapon. Are the 2 great emperors' sacred weapons confronting each other? Please don't attack, or else the mountains and rivers will collapse. The great earth will cave in, and everything will be destroyed. No one will be able to leave alive. In the divine city, many people cried out in fear, and even more people were silently praying. If the 2 sides truly fought, it would be countless times more terrifying than right now. No one wished for that type of battle to happen. The great emperor's sacred weapons revival was already this powerful. If they truly took action and collided, it would be unimaginable just what kind of scene it would be. At this moment, everyone was incredibly bewildered, not knowing which great emperor's sacred weapon was confronting the Jiang family. It was because they couldn't see through it at all, everything becoming hazy. The divine furnace cast from phoenix blood scarlet gold illuminated heaven and earth. A divine phoenix spread its wings, almost crushing down on the divine city. It was incomparably large, covering even the sky. Meanwhile, the other great emperor holy weapon was in a murky state. Only a terrifying pressure could be felt, and no traces of it could be seen. It was purposely hiding itself, not wanting to expose itself before the eyes of the world. It was to the extent that even its fluctuations were unfathomable. One could only sense the emperor's might, but not its unique charm and unique aura. It was precisely because it had intentionally concealed it that its recovery was far slower than the eternal universe divine furnace, and it was practically on the verge of being suppressed, causing it to be unable to reveal an even more terrifying emperor might. In the depths of the underground palace, in front of the dragon transformation pool, Jianghu and the other elders all frowned. They carefully sensed around, but they still couldn't determine which great emperor holy weapon it was. The other party had concealed it too well. Yi Fan had no way of knowing. He hadn't even seen the divine sun cauldron. The sacred cauldron forged from phoenix blood scarlet gold was above and not below, but it sealed the dragon transformation pool. Who is targeting us? Who wants to kill our Jiang family's divine king? The experts of the Jiang family were bewildered. In the eastern wilderness, the number of extreme path sacred weapons in the hands of the people could be counted on one hand. The Jade Pool had one, and the monster race Great Emperor had one. In addition, the Alcade clan had a dragon pattern cauldron, the Ji clan had an ancient void mirror, and the Jiang clan had an eternal universe cauldron. Which one was it? In the vast world, there were millions of empires and tens of thousands of years, but only 5 perfect sacred weapons had been forged, and they were held by the various great powers. Every time they were used, they would be easily destroyed. Boom! The great emperor's sacred weapon was suppressed by the divine sun cauldron too much. It swallowed the essence energy of heaven and earth and instantly sucked dry all the spiritual energy in the divine city. Unleash your divine might. Jianghu suddenly shouted. What? Are we really going to activate the divine sun cauldron? The elders of the Jiang family were all shocked. The enemy has come knocking on our door. What do we have to fear? Bring out the Saint Furnace for me. If the divine city turns to ashes because of this, I will take responsibility for it alone. Jianghu was incomparably resolute. They could infer what kind of terrifying consequences there would be if the eternal universe cauldron was brought out. The elders present were all alarmed. What boldness! A cold snort came from above the underground palace. Then, the pressure of the extreme Tao's sacred weapon retreated like the tide. The other party fled far away, not daring to face it head-on. The Jiang family also let out a long breath. In the end, they didn't bring out the Saint Furnace. Otherwise, the divine city would definitely be flattened, and it would cause a huge uproar. After an unknown period of time, the world finally calmed down. However, the cultivators in the divine city found it hard to calm down. All of them were incomparably excited. The 2 great emperors' sacred weapons confronted each other. They almost pierced through heaven and earth and destroyed everything here. Everyone felt a lingering fear and wanted to escape. However, the divine city was sealed and no one could leave. Staying in such a terrifying city caused many cultivators to feel a chill down their spines. In the early morning, Yi Fan wrote out the second prescription. He took out a white jade bottle. After opening it, a fragrant fragrance flowed out, but it wasn't very strong. What is this? Jianghu asked. A rare treasure of heaven and earth. Extract its essence. Yi Fan didn't even know what it was. When he cut the divine treasures left behind by the Yuan Taoist master for the second time, besides a purple stone core, he also obtained some liquid that seemed to be the melted divine fruit. Jianghu took it and carefully examined it. He was moved and said, "It contains endless vitality, even more than the divine spring." What? The elders next to him were shocked and looked at the crystal-clear liquid in the jade bottle. Is this the juice of some kind of rare fruit of heaven and earth? No one present could recognize it. In the end, they decided to refine it, extract its essence and vitality, and inject it into Jiang Taishu's body. In the next 2 days, the divine city was very peaceful. No one tried to enter the dragon transformation pool. All the peerless masters seemed to be shocked by the great emperor's sacred weapon. Many cultivators gradually relaxed and continued to track down Yi Fan's whereabouts, hoping to find him. This was especially true for those from the ancient Genesis techniques. Ouyang Ye's eyes were like lightning, and there were several times when she approached the dragon transformation pool. The saints and saintesses sent out a large number of people and almost turned the divine city upside down, but they still found nothing. They couldn't do anything. They would never have thought that Yi Fan was hiding in the dragon transformation pool, the most heavily guarded place in the city. Even if someone knew, they didn't have the courage to enter. After 2 days, although Jiang Taishu's body was still very dry, there was a trace of vitality. He was not as lifeless as before, like a piece of dead wood. Seeing this scene, everyone was overjoyed. The old divine king might be saved. When the elders present looked at Yi Fan, they all showed kindness. They were grateful. Maybe we can use the divine medicine. I'll go to the Sky Demon Palace to discuss and get the Qilin seed, Jianghu said. I'm afraid that someone with a weapon of the Great Path will ambush us there. An elder showed a worried look. The enemy had a great Emperor's Saint weapon. If they walked out of the dragon transformation pool without the protection of the eternal universe divine furnace, even a powerful expert would die with a grievance. There's no need for the divine medicine seed. I have a third prescription. Yi Fan took out a small bottle. Before he opened it, the underground palace was filled with a fragrance. This is... Many people looked over. The essence of the divine medicine. Yi Fan spat out these 4 words. The elders were petrified on the spot. He handed the small bottle to Jianghu. The moment he opened it, the intoxicating fragrance attracted everyone's mind, almost making them sink and lose themselves. It really is a divine medicine. Everyone present came from the clan of the ancients and had extraordinary insight. In an instant they could tell whether it was real or fake, confirming that it was undoubtedly a divine medicine. Everyone was dumbfounded, almost unable to believe it. This is the essence blood coughed out by the true dragon divine medicine. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch its body. I didn't know it could fly, Yi Fan explained regretfully to everyone present. You found a divine medicine and caught it? The elders were dumbfounded. What was a divine medicine? It was a holy object between heaven and earth. Even in the archaic era, it was difficult to find a few stalks. It had long gone extinct, and none of the holy lands had a single stalk. Within the small bottle were 9 little dragons, dazzling with golden light. They were vivid and lifelike, just like real dragons. It was extremely magical, and the fragrance intoxicated the group of elders. 9 drops of divine medicine essence blood, perhaps it can revive the old ancestor. The group of elders were trembling as they bowed to Yi Fan. All of them were incomparably excited. Seniors, there's no need to be like this. Yi Fan hid to the side. Under the heavens, apart from the 7 great forbidden lands, there really isn't a single archaic divine medicine left. This kind of great kindness is difficult to repay. The group of elders expressed their gratitude. We should hurry and revive the divine king, Yi Fan said. Right, hurry and refine it. The divine medicine can't exist in this world for long. We can't waste even the slightest bit. The elders' expressions were incomparably solemn. The 9 elders stepped forward and took out 9 dazzling little dragons from the bottle. Each of them spat out a ray of innate divine light, which was imprinted on one of the little dragons and shot towards Jiang Taishu. With a strong fragrance, the 9 little dragons circled around Jiang Taishu's body, as if 9 real dragons were taking shape. They were like living creatures, almost psychic. Even his withered body was sparkling and translucent. The archaic divine medicine is indeed magical. It contains the essence of immortality and can revive the dead. Everyone was amazed. We have to be careful tonight. I have a feeling that something will happen. Jianghu reminded. Everyone's heart trembled. These days, every night in the divine city, blood and energy soared into the sky like a huge dragon soaring into the sky. One could imagine how many terrifying figures had come. If someone came again with a great emperor's holy weapon, those people would move upon hearing the news. It would be a disaster, and the old divine king would most likely be killed. The ominous premonition had come true. On this night, everyone in the Jiang clan felt a terrifying aura, covering the sky and earth as it rushed over. Everyone in the divine city was shocked. As long as they raised their heads, they could see dragon-shaped blood and energy surging into the dragon transformation pool. Within the divine city, all the terrifying figures were mobilized. The blood dragons were incomparably thick, piercing through the sky and earth. They were majestic, and their divine power surged like an ocean. Every one of them was like an eternal divine furnace. Their blood and energy were exuberant, burning fiercely, reaching into the sky. They were so powerful that it made people tremble. These people were definitely at the level of a divine lord, or even stronger. When they gathered together, their blood and energy were like the sea, almost boiling, causing the divine city to shake. They wanted to kill the divine king, Jianghu, and not allow him to revive. Tonight, they would launch a thunderous attack. These people didn't know each other, but they had a feeling that they had come here together. They were going to attack together and destroy the former heaven-subduing divine king. Boom! The eternal universe furnace revived. Endless rays of light shot into the sky, and the entire divine city trembled. The phoenix blood and gold interweaved into the ultimate truth of the great Tao, covering the sky and earth. At this moment, it moved the 9 heavens above and the 9 underworlds below. It had become the only sacred furnace in the world, suppressing everything. It was an eternal divine object. The sacred weapon of the ancient emperors revived. Endless divine might surged, like a great river entering the sea, surging and roaring. It was like a red sun falling from the sky, crashing into the earth. But soon, another sacred weapon of the ancient emperors also revived, blocking the eternal universe divine furnace. It was as if millions of stars were falling, and the sky was filled with dazzling light. In the sky above the divine city, it was as if there were tens of thousands of silver rivers surging. The sacred weapons of the ancient emperors were reviving, and they constantly resisted each other. The divine city was shaken, and the heavens were shaken. True dragon-like blood and energy rushed into the sky, one after another, slowly moving, approaching the dragon transformation pool. A group of terrifying experts of unknown origins were finally going to attack, to kill the divine king. The lamentable divine king, Jianghu, was heroic and imposing in the past. He looked down on the world and no one dared to provoke him. But now, someone came knocking on his door, wanting to take his life. More than 4,000 years ago, the peerless and elegant divine king, when compared to his past, it could be said that he was in his twilight years. It couldn't be said that this was a kind of sorrow. A hero wouldn't be allowed to see his white hair in this world. Chapter 388. You're going too far. Jianghu shouted, his voice shaking the entire divine city and reaching everyone's ears. He couldn't help but be angry. So many powerful characters came to kill the old divine king together. They were determined not to let Jianghu revive and wanted to destroy him together. If time was reversed 4,000 years ago, who would dare to fight against our divine king? Now that he's old and in danger, what kind of peak expert can he be considered? Jiang Yun's voice was cold. His killing intent swept out like a tide. Time moves on. It's time for the divine king to die. Why must you all be like this? You can't protect him at all. He has no chance of reviving. A low voice rang out. Boom. In the darkness, the unknown great emperor's sacred weapon was revived. It was like an ancient beast opening its mouth, swallowing the world. In an instant, it sucked dry all the essence energy in the divine city. It was resisting the eternal universe divine furnace. Its terrifying fluctuations were like a surging ocean. It was as if an ancient king had come into being, or as if a deity was overlooking the common people. At the same time, the cry of a phoenix shook the heavens, clear and distant, ringing out in everyone's hearts. A supreme divine might rushed out, causing the entire divine city to tremble. A divine phoenix spread its wings. It was incomparably huge, covering the night sky and the ancient city, suppressing the unknown sacred weapon below. The aura of an ancient great emperor pervaded the air. Tonight, everyone wanted nothing more than to immediately flee. The divine city was suffocating. Around the dragon transformation pool, it was as if there were many eternal divine furnaces burning. Streams of dragon-like blood chi pierced through the heavens and earth, almost boiling. Peak experts pressed in from all directions. The essence blood in their bodies was like a tsunami, gushing out like volcanoes. They linked together, sweeping up the heavens. The heavens were shaking, the earth was moving, and people's hearts were trembling. The divine city was filled with an austere aura. Endless fear and pressure made it hard for people to breathe. Many cultivators had already collapsed to the ground, finding it hard to bear. Unleash the divine might of the extreme Tao. Jianghu shouted, decisively and coldly making such a decision. His voice seemed to come from the depths of hell, cold and emotionless. All the cultivators in the divine city could hear it. Everyone felt their bodies turn cold, cold sweat drenching their bodies. The revival of the great emperor's sacred weapon was already so terrifying. Who would be able to withstand it? No one could remain calm. All of them cried out in fear. If the sacred sun furnace was unleashed, the divine city would definitely cease to exist. No one would be able to survive. Are we really going to fight? The voices of some elders of the Jiang family were trembling. Beat them up. Jiang Yun's voice was cold. At the side, Yi Fan's heart was rather restless. He hadn't expected that things would come to this. If it was him, what would he do? There was no other choice but to fight. Buzz! The divine sun cauldron's radiance was endless, turning the night into day. The phoenix blood was like the sun, the multicolored haze dazzling, almost poignant and beautiful. A blood-dyed phoenix sword. This part of the world was on the verge of collapsing. The eternal universe Saint Furnace was on the verge of completely reviving. Terrifying fluctuations instantly rushed out, causing the skies to tremble and the earth to tremble. The great emperor's sacred weapon, which had been dormant for many years, was about to unleash a devastating attack, wiping out all living beings on this land. It was as if an ancient god had been born. But at this critical moment, the void stagnated. It was like an endless swamp had appeared and the Saint Furnace had fallen into it. I can't strike out the Saint Furnace. Several elders of the Jiang family cried out in alarm. They were the ones controlling the extreme Dao weapons. What happened? Jiang Yun could no longer remain calm. Many Saint Sovereign-level characters had come to invade, and they also had the great emperor's divine treasures. The sacred sun cauldron was the only thing they could rely on. In this part of the world, the incomplete runes of the great emperor have been inscribed, connecting the eternal universe furnace and the great emperor's sacred weapon together. The great emperor's sacred weapon is mutually suppressing each other, unable to be activated. Several elders of the Jiang family were incomparably anxious. Jiang Yun's expression changed. The other party had come prepared, actually thinking of such a method. The great emperor's sacred weapon was mutually suppressing each other, unable to be separated in a short period of time. To them, this was a disaster. Kill the divine king. Cut off Jiang Taishu's head. Send the dying divine king on his way. Voices rang out from all directions where the dragon transformation pool was located, cold and emotionless. They were all Saint Sovereign-level characters, and each of them was a peak-level expert that looked down on everyone. Their voices weren't loud, but they rang out throughout the entire divine city. Everyone could hear them, cold and cruel. Their low words were like divine hammers smashing into the hearts of others. The Jiang family can't stop them. The divine king's path is at its end, and he can't escape death. The other party came with the great emperor's sacred weapon, not inferior to the Jiang family. The two sacred weapons are mutually suppressing each other, and the Jiang family is powerless. No matter how strong the Jiang family is, they can't stop the alliance of so many peak-level experts. The number of Saint Sovereigns is simply incomparable. In the divine city, some of the older generation were horrified, and they couldn't help but discuss in a low voice. In such a battle, the Jiang family would most likely suffer heavy losses, and their sacred weapon might even be snatched away. Boom! On the underground palace, one of the Saint Sovereigns made a move, smashing the ground into pieces with a single palm strike. Rubble flew into the air, and the entire palace turned into dust. But another person made a move, smashing down with a palm strike. The ground sunk, and large cracks appeared one after another. A huge sinkhole appeared, and the underground palace was right in front of them. These people were all cold and emotionless, and no one knew who they were. Each of them was shrouded in a thick fog, and it was impossible to see through them. No one would reveal their true identity. The powerful killing intent caused the underground palace to collapse. They entered in a single file, and without any words, their killing intent was like the ocean, silently surging. The underground palace was as cold as an icehouse. It was extremely rare for so many terrifying characters to appear at the same time, and all of them were here to kill a dying old man. Each of them was filled with an austere aura. The life of my clan's divine king, the battle word chant of the 9 secrets, and the secret of Great Emperor Wuxia. Which one do you want for you to come in such a large scale? Jianghu calmly faced these people. All of them. One of them was shrouded in black fog, and his voice was hoarse, emitting boundless killing intent. If you want to know all of this, you need to revive my divine king to know. You guys are too impatient. Jianghu swept his gaze over these people. There's no need to revive him. Soul search is enough. The other 2 spoke separately. Their words were short and powerful, and they didn't want to waste a single word. Since that's the case, you guys can step over my dead body first. 2 beams of divine light shot out from Jianghu's eyes. A spear appeared in his hand, and an ancient pagoda floated above his head. If you want to die, we'll fulfill your wish. 2 of them slowly walked forward. The underground palace shook as if it was about to collapse. The ancient pagoda floated above Jianghu's head. His battle intent soared into the sky, and he stood alone in the underground palace. The black spear flickered with a cold light as it pointed forward, blocking everyone. The 2 divine lords that were walking forward suddenly retreated with great difficulty. Every step they took caused a huge earthquake. They seemed to have used up all of their energy, and they were almost trembling. Great Emperor's array runes, they exclaimed at the same time. At the same time, Jianghu attacked. The spear in his hand slashed out a black light that tore through the void and pierced through the chests of the 2, wanting to cut them in half. The expressions of the 2 changed. Their hands trembled as they resisted the black spear, but their feet were not in a mess. They continued to retreat rhythmically. One of their hands was as translucent as jade, while the other was as red as blood. They interweaved with the power of laws, piercing through the void and blocking the spear. Boom! Jianghu was as fast as lightning. He rushed forward with the black spear in his hand. At the same time, the ancient pagoda above his head enlarged and pressed forward. Pung, pung, ping. The underground palace shook. The battle between the 3 was so fast that it was dazzling. The void was torn apart, and the 2 supreme experts retreated from the array runes with great difficulty. One of them was bleeding from his shoulder. The array runes of an ancient great emperor. When they retreated to a safe place, they shouted in unison as if their hearts were filled with lingering fear. The Jiang clan once had the Hengyu heavenly emperor, so there must be some array runes left behind. However, it is impossible for them to restore such a heaven-defying array rune, someone coldly said from the side. There is less than 1/10 of this array rune, and it is so badly damaged. It can only delay for a while. Another person said. One after another, figures walked forward. A total of 13 people stood at the front, and they worked together to break the damaged array runes. They didn't want to give the Jiang clan any more time. This was an incomparably terrifying force. With so many divine lords working together, it was enough to sweep through the world. If the ancient sages didn't appear, who could stop them? Gotcha! They attacked together, causing the earth to crumble. They wanted to destroy the innate Tao runes and destroy everything here. However, the dim runes didn't disappear. They remained in the air, isolating them from the outside world. They couldn't truly charge in. The ancient great emperors are indeed terrifying. However, the remnant array runes he left behind are enough to stop so many terrifying characters. Yi Fan sighed in his heart. At the same time, he felt that things weren't looking good. He thought that he had thought of a brilliant plan to hide here so that the people in the God City wouldn't be able to find him. Who would have thought that after leaving the dragon's pond, he would enter the tiger's den? The dragon transformation pool was even more dangerous than the other places in the God City. So many terrifying characters were gathered here, wanting to kill the divine kings. The 13 major characters worked together to destroy the Tao runes in the air. They used their shocking divine might to attack again and again, and finally, there was some effect. This is just an incomplete array rune. If you could set up 1/10 of the array, we wouldn't be able to charge in. One of them said with a voice like metal clashing, sonorous and powerful. The dragon transformation pool was crowded with people. The experts of the Jiang clan were gathered here, and all of them were frowning. The eternal universe divine furnace couldn't be used yet, and it was fighting against another great emperor's saint weapon. In the milky white pool water, the essence blood coughed up by the true dragon divine medicine. Out of the 9 little dragons, 6 had been refined and entered Jiang Taishu's body. His body was no longer as withered as before, and traces of vitality appeared. However, there was still no sign of him waking up or reviving. It was still silent in the pool water. Everyone had a bad premonition. Could it be that even after refining the 9 little dragons, the Divine King wouldn't be able to revive? We can't let them break the array runes. Otherwise, if these people rush in, all our efforts will be for nothing. A dozen elders of the Jiang clan stepped out, each of them surging with vitality and essence energy. They strode to the edge of the array runes to resist the powerful enemies. Boom! Even through the array runes, it was difficult to resist the tsunami-like divine power. Both sides fought fiercely, but the difference in strength was huge. Almost as soon as they started fighting, 4 elders were beaten into meat paste and turned into a bloody mist, leaving nothing behind. It didn't mean that the older one was, the stronger one was. These elders were the supreme elders of the Jiang clan, and no one knew how old they were, but they were no match for people of the Divine Lord level. Come back. Jiang Yun shouted. He didn't want the people of his clan to die in vain. He couldn't stop these people at all, and he couldn't delay them for even a moment. Boom. Suddenly, the last attack was unleashed. The 13 great experts obliterated the array runes that were branded in the void, and the incomplete great emperor's Tao pattern disappeared completely. Jiang Taishu, I'm coming for your head. Divine King Jiang, it's enough for you to dominate an era. There's no need for you to come back to life again. Since ancient times, how many people have been able to kill peerless divine kings? Today, I'm lucky enough to stain my hands with divine blood. It's a great joy in life. The 13 divine lord-level characters walked over, and even the sky trembled. Their words spread throughout the divine city, and everyone's expression changed. They were about to succeed in killing a divine king. The 13 great figures stepped forward, and the divine city shook. Who in the world could defeat them if they joined forces? Even the ancient sages would frown when they returned. Boundless murderous intent surged, and the 13 great figures sneered as they advanced. Killing a divine king was imminent. Swish! Suddenly, 2 bolts of cold lightning shot out from the dragon transformation pool. They were like the divine light of the primordial era that cut through the void, making people tremble and want to worship them. Jiang Taishu is alive. The expressions of the 13 divine lord-level characters changed, and they all retreated in shock. This was the power of a peerless divine king. Even though 4,000 years had passed, when he revived, he still shocked everyone. Even many divine lord-level characters standing together were frightened away. Chapter 389. In the dragon transformation pool, Jiang Taishu lay motionless in the water. He did not get up, but the divine light in his eyes was frightening. He stared coldly at the 13 divine lords. Thump, thump, thump. The 13 major characters who ruled over their own territories took a few steps back. They were intimidated by the aura and couldn't help but shiver. They couldn't help but retreat. Jiang Taishu's offensive power was well known. Who could compete with him in the past 5,000 years? If he was reborn, even a divine lord would be beaten to death. Old Divine King, you're awake. That's great. Ancestor, you've finally been reborn. The heavens have eyes. The Divine King of the Jiang family has been reborn. The people of the Jiang family were shocked and overjoyed. They all shouted excitedly, and some even cried tears of joy. Jiang Taishu was not old when he disappeared, but now he was called Ancestor. It could be said that he had been dreaming for thousands of years. The ups and downs of the mortal world had changed. Almost everyone he knew no longer existed in this world. Most of his juniors had long since surpassed the age at which he had disappeared. He would never see anyone of his generation again. The Divine King was reborn. He glanced at everyone and carefully looked at his descendants. He did not say a word, and no one knew what he was feeling at the moment. Finally, when he saw Yi Fan, he showed a trace of emotion for the first time. He seemed to be stunned for a moment, but then he quickly calmed down. Jiang Taishu, so what if you've been reborn? This is not 4,000 years ago. It's not your era. Not far from the dragon transformation pool, a great figure shrouded in black fog said in a low voice. His eyes were like an abyss, staring coldly in front of him. At this moment, the other terrifying figures also calmed down. They were not ordinary people, so they instantly calmed down. No matter how famous Jiang Taishu was, he was a hero at the end of his road. After being sealed for 4,000 years, his lifespan had long dried up. It was a miracle that he could wake up. Could he still fight? The people of the Jiang family felt as if cold water had been poured over them. They suddenly thought of all this, and their hearts were full of unwillingness. Unless he is the reincarnation of a great emperor, how can he get up and kill the enemy? Another divine lord shouted. Divine King Jiang wasn't born in the same era as you, yet you met him in your twilight years. I wonder whose regret it is. Today, all of us will send you on your way. Rest in peace. 13 sacred lords stepped forward together. The depths of the underground palace shook, and water splashed everywhere from the dragon transformation pond. Slay a godly king. These 4 words were like a 10,000 gene hammer, smashing down on everyone's hearts. They contained endless killing intent as they pressed down on the old divine king. At this moment, everyone in the divine city was shocked. They could hear these words clearly, and all of their hearts were shaken. The many overlords were really going to make a move. How dare you? Jiang Yun stepped forward, an ancient pagoda hovering above his head, a black battle halberd in his hand. He stood before the dragon transformation pool and continuously shook his divine weapon, dispelling the shocking killing intent. At the same time, many of the Jiang clan's older generation also took action. They blocked the 4 characters' killing intent and scattered it in the air. Pooh, pew. Apart from Jiang Yun, the other elders all coughed out large mouthfuls of blood. The killing intent released by the 13 sacred lords was enough to kill powerful cultivators. Not many could withstand it. Many people staggered backwards, and they almost fell to the ground. The 13 people in front were all overlords of their own regions, and they couldn't contend against them at all. One of the almighty figures coldly stared at Jiang Yun and said, "The Jiang clan's sacred lord has a future, so why are you courting death? There are so many of you, each of you looking down on a region and dominating a region. Now, you actually joined hands to kill a sorrowful old man. Don't you feel ashamed?" Jiang Yun shouted. "We came for the secret of great Emperor Wuxia, for the 9 secret Do word formula. Slay a godly king is only ranked 3rd. A godly king of a generation is worthy of so many almighty figures sending him off. This can also be considered a form of respect for him. Otherwise, dying alone in the hands of a single person would be the doomsday god king's sorrow." Jiang Yun coldly shouted, "You make it sound nice, but everyone has their declining years. Aren't you afraid of suffering the same treatment? 800 years later, I'm willing to wait for my descendants to kill me." A voice sneered and swept his gaze over the few middle-aged and young generation of the Jiang clan. "I'm just afraid that you haven't lived as long as I have. Jiang Taishu, tell me Mount Purple's secret and write down the battle saint technique. Then I'll spare your descendants. Everyone here is your direct descendant. You don't want to watch them get killed, do you? Even the eternal universe sacred furnace has been blocked. Even if the Jiang clan comes out in full force, they won't be able to save you. Moreover, you're already at the end of your rope. Why are you still stubbornly holding on?" The 13 sacred lords once again released a bone-chilling killing intent that penetrated through the human wall and pierced through the old godly King Jiang. At this moment, the almighty Jiang Yun couldn't help but cough out a mouthful of blood. He was the only one who was on equal footing with these people. How could he contend against them? "Jiang Yun, since you want to die, we'll fulfill your wish. Then we'll kill the godly king." The 13 almighty figures stepped forward together, and the underground palace almost collapsed. A terrifying pressure swept through the sky like a vast ocean, sweeping away all obstacles. Voila! In the dragon transformation pool, the sound of water rang out. The withered body slowly sat up and slowly stood up. The divine light in his eyes was even more dazzling, as if it could pierce through a person's body. Jiang Taishu walked onto the shore step by step. He was still all skin and bones, looking extremely thin and weak, but his movements were firm and powerful. Ancestor, godly king ancestor. What's wrong with you? What are you doing? The people of the Jiang clan exclaimed. They didn't expect Jiang Taishu to be able to stand up and reach the shore alone. Then he headed straight for the 13 almighty figures. At this moment, every time he took a step, there was a kind of pulsing sound between heaven and earth. It wasn't very heavy, and it didn't shake the underground palace at all. However, this rhythm was like the divine drum of the ancient heaven that had been broken for millions of years. It pounded on everyone's hearts, and even the almighty figures' hearts shrank. Thump, thump, thump. This was an indescribably terrifying rhythm. It was like the innate great Tao was echoing. The people of the Jiang clan couldn't help but make way for him. It was all a subconscious action. A divine lord-level figure snorted coldly. He wanted to interrupt this terrifying rhythm, but he couldn't. Instead, it was even more frightening. He's about to enter the grave. What's there to be afraid of? A almighty figure stepped forward and directly attacked. He rushed up like a bolt of black lightning. Jiang Yun blocked with his halberd, but the other two almighty figures acted together and blocked him, not giving him a chance to move forward. Divine King Jiang, I'll send you on your way. That person rushed forward in the blink of an eye. He raised his hand and slammed it down. This was not just a palm, but also a kind of heaven and earth rule. One could even faintly see Tao patterns interweaving, forming a web of order, displaying the tangible power of the law. The people of the Jiang clan were heartbroken. They wanted to stop him, but it was impossible. This was a mighty lord. Apart from Jiang Yun, no one could stop him. However, Jiang Taishu was still fearless. He walked forward step by step, and the rhythm of his steps was not disrupted at all. Suddenly, 2 rays of scarlet light shot out from his eyes. They were the same color as the phoenix blood scarlet gold. They became the only thing between heaven and earth, brilliant and eternal. It was as if the eternal universe's sacred furnace had rushed out. Ah! The almighty figure screamed. His slamming palm was pierced through by the light. The order rule he had interwoven was instantly destroyed, and the scarlet light rushed forward like a cloud of smoke. Blood splattered. The almighty figure's eyes were pierced through by the scarlet light, and the light came out from the back of his head. He screamed and flew backward. What? How is this possible? Jiang Taishu can still fight in his twilight years. Behind them, the other divine lords were all shocked. A dying old divine king could still have such divine power. Elder. Divine King Elder. The people of the Jiang clan were shocked and pleasantly surprised. They had never thought that Jiang Taishu would have such combat strength as soon as he woke up. From this, one could only imagine how powerful Jiang Taishu was 4,000 years ago. He must have been heroic and majestic, with infinite grace. The almighty figure's eyes were pierced through, and the light came out from his head. He did not die. At this level of cultivation, he could regenerate his limbs, and it was difficult to kill him. However, he was seriously injured and lost the ability to fight. I, Jiang Taishu, have been unstoppable all my life, and no one has ever forced me like this. Divine King Jiang finally spoke. His voice was like the roar of a divine bell, echoing in the underground palace and reaching every corner of the divine city. Heavens, Jiang Taishu has revived and regained his combat strength. In the divine city, many cultivators heard his voice and were all shocked. That's Jiang Taishu talking. An old divine king who is almost 5,000 years old. Wasn't he a lamp that had run out of oil? How can he be so powerful just after waking up? The people in the divine city were shocked, and they could not believe all of this. So many divine lords went to kill the divine king, but in the end, he was revived. In the underground palace, Jiang Taishu was still walking forward. His rhythm did not change, but it was becoming more and more terrifying. Not good, the almighty figure at the front cried out. His heart was in so much pain that it was about to burst, and he quickly retreated. Bang! Jiang Taishu's last step was extremely heavy, and the underground palace almost collapsed. The almighty figure screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. The 13 divine lords were really stunned. They all retreated, leaving the dragon transformation pool in an instant, and looked at the old divine king with shock and uncertainty. Jiang Taishu stood there like a pine tree, unmoving. Then, with a sudden shout, he pressed his hands into the void and drew several lines. The great emperor's formation pattern. Everyone was shocked. Between Jiang Taishu's hands, the order of the laws appeared, and they were branded in the void. Mysterious runes were carved, and they shone like stars. All of this happened too quickly. The old divine king restored the patterns that Jiang Yun had carved in an instant, and they continued to evolve and develop, making the patterns even more terrifying and unfathomable. But at this moment, his body suddenly stiffened, and a trace of black blood flowed out of his mouth. He fell straight down. Old ancestor. Divine king ancestor. The people of the Jiang clan were shocked. They rushed forward to help him up, and then carried him into the dragon transformation pool. Jiang Taishu had no blood to cough, and there was only a trace of sticky black blood at the corner of his mouth. He was almost at the end of his oil. If it were not for the 9 little dragons swimming in his body, his life would have been extinguished. Chapter 390. Divine King Jiang lives up to his reputation. Even though he is dying, he still has the demeanor of a proud son of heaven. Unfortunately, time cannot be turned back. Your era has come to an end. Even though this great emperor formation is complex and profound, you have only developed a corner of it. You have the will but not the power. At most, you can only stop us for one day. The 13 divine sovereigns were very cold. Some had eyes as empty as the abyss, while some had eyes as deep as the starry sky. They were cold and emotionless as they stared at the divine king in the dragon transformation pool. What should we do? The Jiang family powerhouses looked worried. They were the direct descendants of the divine king. Naturally, they could not bear to see the old divine king killed. One day should be enough. I can revive the divine king. Yi Fan strode forward and came to the edge of the dragon transformation pool. With a flash of light in his hand, a small white jade cauldron appeared. In an instant, a fragrance that made people want to sink into it spread out. Almost everyone could not help but take a deep breath. All the pores on their bodies opened up. This was an intoxicating feeling. Divine medicine? The Jiang family people were shocked. How is this possible? The Qilan seed was sealed in the Heaven Demon Treasure Tower. How can there be a divine medicine? The 13 divine sovereigns were shocked. This is not good. If Jiang Taishu really revives and seals the divine city with the eternal universe divine furnace, none of us will be able to escape. He will kill us one by one. Quick, attack with all your strength. Break the great emperor's formation. We cannot give him a chance. The 13 divine sovereigns could not calm down. Their hearts were in turmoil. They all did their best to attack. Divine medicine? Very good. There is hope for this old man to live. Cough. A sudden voice sounded. He coughed continuously as if he would die at any time. A trembling old man appeared in the underground palace. There were only a few dozen strands of hair on his head like weeds. His face was full of wrinkles like old tree bark. Jiang Taishu, it has been 4,000 years. I miss you so much, cough. He bent his body and trembled as he moved forward. I will accept the divine medicine. It is useless for you to eat it. The 13 superpowerhouses' expressions stiffened. They could not help but retreat. The sudden appearance of this old man and his words were really frightening. Who was he? What was his background? Parting for 4,000 years. This was too scary. Could it be that this old man was over 4,000 years old and was someone from the same era as Jiang Taishu? No matter how one listened, that was definitely the meaning. This was truly a heaven-defying old monster. He was actually from the same generation as a divine king, having the same lifespan. In normal circumstances, a Holy Lord-level character could live for over 2,000 years. Yet, this person had lived for over 4,000 years and still hadn't died. This was truly horrifying and horrifying. What kind of old man was this? He was definitely a character of the previous generation's old Holy Masters generation, but how did he survive until today? Who are you? The people of the Jiang family shouted. They all felt a headache coming on. With the birth of such a monstrous genius, in a situation where they couldn't use the eternal universe Saint Furnace, they really didn't know how to deal with it. I'm an old friend of Jiang Taishu. I really hope that he can wake up and reminisce with him. It's a pity that there's only one stock of godly medicine. It's better for him to sleep forever. The old man staggered forward as if it was extremely strenuous. However, no one dared to look down on him. The 13 Holy Lord level characters couldn't help but open up a path for him. At this time, everyone noticed that a strand of black mist would seep out from his body from time to time. It actually carried a thick aura of death and the smell of rotting corpses. Everyone was shocked. They were extremely puzzled and filled with disbelief. This should be a dead person. His body even had the smell of rotting corpses. Yes, every time a strand of black mist seeped out, this smell would waft out. It was nauseating and disgusting, almost unbearable. Your body has already died, so how are you still alive? One of the 13 Holy Lord level characters asked. They were all overlords of their own regions. Even if the other party had lived for 4,000 years, they still didn't fear him. They similarly dared to open their mouths and ask. Apart from the divine king physique, how many people in this world can live past 4,000 years? When the old holy lords reached the end of their lifespans, all of them entered the great wastelands. However, who was able to appear in this world alive? This old man was trembling. He walked in front of the great emperor's formation patterns and carefully observed them. Then he said, 4,000 years of undying is a legend. The old holy lords have all returned to the earth. At the very least, I have never seen a single one come out. For this old one to be able to return to the world of mortals, it can also be considered a miracle. Everyone looked at him in shock. There's no need to look at this old one like that. I still don't have that heaven-defying strength. My flesh has indeed died, and only my divine sense is still alive. He admitted that he was a living dead person. How exactly did you do it? The 13 Holy Lord level characters asked. They urgently wanted to know, because there were some among them whose lifespans were reaching the end of their lifespans. In the past, Jiang Taishu looked down on the world. This old one and 2 other friends were chased by him until there was no path to heaven and no gate to earth. We fled into Undying Mountain. Unfortunately, surviving a great disaster doesn't necessarily mean that there will be good fortune in the future. We didn't obtain the undying divine medicine, but we accidentally ate a stalk of underworld grass. What? Everyone was shocked. Underworld grass was something from the legends. It grew in the Yellow Springs and didn't belong to the mortal world. It shouldn't have appeared in this world. I have to say that Undying Mountain is a strange place. We didn't see that Tao Comprehension ancient tea tree. In the past, the 3 great experts were chased into Undying Mountain by Jiang Taishu. After surviving a great disaster, they unexpectedly discovered a Yellow Springs pond and picked up a stalk of strange grass. They thought it was a divine medicine, but after eating it, their flesh instantly released a rotting smell. The 3 of them became half-human and half-ghost existences. Their flesh was completely destroyed, and it was difficult for their cultivation to advance. However, they didn't die. Underworld grass was rare in this world and was an exceptional, wondrous item. It had a poison that could make people rot, but it also had the essence of an undying substance. The 2 completely opposite medicinal powers were gathered in one body. Their divine senses obtained nourishment, but their flesh almost became rotten corpses. It could be considered a strange transformation. Of course, their bodies weren't truly dead. There was always a trace of vitality. Otherwise, they would have long become skeletons. Underworld grass. It actually has such a strange medicinal power. The 13 divine masters all had different thoughts. So, you guys don't need to worry. This old man can't threaten you overlords who look down on a region. I am only a living dead person, passing my time in vain. My flesh is inferior to yours, he said while coughing. However, the 13 great characters weren't like this. The other party's divine senses were absolutely incomparably powerful. He was truly an old monster. However, they indeed let out a sigh of relief. In this world, there were very few people who could truly live past 4,000 years old. This kind of special case wasn't worth envying. No divine master wanted to become a half-human and half-ghost existence. That was a fate worse than death, so it was better not to increase their lifespan. In front of the dragon transformation pond, the people of the Jiang family were very nervous. Even the great expert Jiang was frowning. This old monster might be extremely difficult to deal with. Although this old man was humble, no one believed his words. How could a person who had lived for 4,000 years not be terrifying? Hurry and save divine King Jiang. Yi Fan was also alarmed. Meeting such an old monster today was truly not good. The small white jade cauldron was opened, and an intoxicating fragrance permeated the entire underground palace. It seeped into people's bones, and everyone felt as if they were walking on clouds and ascending to heaven. Such a fragrance, it is indeed a divine medicine. Perhaps it can help this old man reverse his rotting flesh and restore his vitality. The old monster spoke while coughing. This is the dragon pearl of the true dragon divine medicine? The people of the Jiang family were stunned. Some of the supreme elders had seen records of the true dragon divine medicine in ancient books, and they were filled with shock. Good, good, good. Jiang praised 3 times and said, the different parts of the primordial true dragon divine medicine have different effects. The dragon pearl fruit part represents rebirth. This is heaven's will. The dragon pearl fruit contains endless vitality and can be reborn as a dragon, undergoing nirvana and transformation. It complements the dragon transformation pond here. The other elders of the Jiang family were also pleasantly surprised. This fruit of the primordial divine medicine was simply prepared for Jiang Taishu, and they were all filled with anticipation. In the underground palace, the 13 Saint Lords were also shocked. They never thought that there would really be a primordial divine medicine, and a dragon pearl fruit at that. What a pity, it will take at least a day to dissolve this dragon pearl. I will not give it to you. The old monster sneered, and his voice was extremely eerie. Protect the divine king with the medicine. Jiang shouted. Dozens of elders stepped forward and placed the dragon pearl fruit into Jiang Taishu's mouth. Then, they sat down together and shot out rays of innate divine light into the old divine king's body. These people were ready to risk their lives. They were willing to sacrifice their lifespan to save this grandmaster. As long as the divine king could be reborn, all the troubles in front of them could be swept away. Since you have placed the dragon pearl fruit into Jiang Taishu's body, I will eat him alive after I enter. The old monster's killing intent was revealed, and his words were cold. Senior, do you have a way to enter? Beside him, one of the 13 Saint Lords asked. The old monster shouted towards the outside of the underground palace. You 2 living dead should be here by now, right? With the 3 of us working together, we can break this incomplete corner of the great emperor's array pattern in 4 hours. Hee hee. A cold sneer sounded. 2 skinny figures appeared at the entrance of the underground palace. The death aura on them was even stronger, and every few breaths, a wisp of black fog would float out. Seems like the 3 of us are the same, corroded by the nether power. We won't live for more than 10 years at most. The 3 old monsters stood together, each more ghastly than the last, and the stench of decay filled every inch of the underground palace, making one's hair stand on end. Break the array pattern, eat Jiang Taishu, and we can still live. The words of the 3 old monsters sent chills down everyone's spine. It was as if they had lost their humanity and regarded the old divine king as an immortal divine medicine in human form. 13 little guys, stand aside. We will break the array pattern here. The 3 half-human, half-ghost existences seemed to have walked out from hell, and they were filled with a strong death aura. The 13 Saint Lords silently walked to the side. They were not afraid of the 3 old monsters, but they were not angered by their words either. In 4 hours, the incomplete Great Emperor's array pattern would be broken. By then, who could stop the 3 old monsters who had lived for more than 4,000 years? They were terrifying figures from the same era as divine King Jiang. Chapter 391. The old evildoers who had lived for more than 4,000 years brought unparalleled pressure to the Jiang family. They were half human, half ghost, and had existed for a long time. Who could suppress them? The atmosphere in the depths of the underground palace was suffocating. Everyone from the Jiang family had serious expressions as they stared nervously at the terrifying characters outside. The 13 Saint Lord-level characters retreated to the side. Their expressions were cold and their auras were deep and unfathomable. They were all lords of their own regions and weren't afraid even when facing the 3 living corpses. The 3 old monsters walked forward. Their bodies would occasionally overflow with black mist. The strong aura of death made people's hearts palpitate, and the stench of decay was nauseating. "Pa!" One of them probed. His withered palm was almost rotten. He struck the void and a black mist gushed out. The power of the underworld circulated and began to erase the formation runes. Wang! The other old monster was even more frightening. His empty eyes shot out 2 beams of green light that pierced through the void and began to erase the great emperor's formation runes in the air. The 2 beams of green light seemed to shoot out from the depths of hell. They flickered endlessly and a wave of death energy flowed like surging yellow springs. Everyone's expression changed. Even the supreme expert Jiang Yun was astonished. What a powerful divine will! They knew that the 3 old monsters hadn't used their full strength yet and were only probing. If they launched a thunderous attack, it would be even more terrifying. The great emperor's formation runes are indeed incomprehensible. Even though they are incomplete, they are still world-shaking. If they were slightly more complete, no one in this world would be able to break them. Unfortunately, it is only a corner and is too badly damaged. The 3 living corpses sighed. Even though their divine wills were powerful, they couldn't comprehend anything and could only destroy it with brute force. It was like the roar of a gale or the stampede of 10,000 horses. The 3 heaven-defying old monsters suddenly emitted a thick black mist. Their bodies were submerged as if they had opened the gates of hell. A bitter baleful aura covered the sky and earth. Boom! Suddenly, an ocean-like fluctuation rushed out from their heads and shook the entire divine city. These were 3 extremely powerful divine wills that reached the sky like a tsunami. Bang! The endless underground palace collapsed and rubble flew high into the sky. The dragon transformation pond appeared under the starry sky. The underground palace under the boundless ground had been turned into fine powder, and a terrifying abyss had appeared in its place. This was the terrifying divine sense of the 3 old monsters. It surged out without holding anything back, instantly creating such a terrifying result. It was so shocking that no one dared to believe all of this. Not dying for 4,000 years wasn't an undeserved reputation. Anyone who saw this scene would feel their scalp go numb. Divine senses surged out like a tide, obliterating everything in their way. This caused everyone to feel a chill run down their spines, and all the hair on their bodies stood on end. The Jiang clan members felt as if they had fallen into an ice cellar. How could they resist? The 13 Holy Lord-level characters also involuntarily drew back, distancing themselves from these 3 old monstrous geniuses. There was an incomparable fear in their hearts. These 3 characters were just too terrifying, enough to make one horrified. Boom, boom, boom. 3 streaks of divine flames lit up, rushing thousands of zhang into the air. They were thick like mountains, terrifying to the extreme. They represented coldness, slaughter, and death. The 3 old monsters were bathed in flames. They were surrounded by terrifying flames, and one of them was scarlet red like blood. This was his life's divine flame. It dyed the sky like multicolored haze, and it was even more like an erupting volcano. Another person's green flames reached the heavens. Flames seeped out from his body and rushed high into the sky, burning the night sky green. It was thousands of zhang tall, as if a dark green mountain was shaking. The 3rd old monster's entire body was pitch black like ink. Black flames rushed into the heavens, as if they were connecting the 9 netherworlds and the 9 heavens, connecting the heavens and earth. Scarlet flames, green flames and black flames were the same color as their decaying bodies, representing blood, coldness, slaughter, and death. Attack! The three old monsters released a low roar. Divine senses that made everyone tremble rushed out from their heads, attacking towards the great emperor's formation patterns. Even the void was torn apart as they continuously devoured and obliterated those patterns. Not good, stop them. Many of the Jiang clan's elders couldn't sit still anymore. They rushed forward to resist. The three living corpses were too powerful. At this rate, they might be able to destroy the damaged great emperor's formation patterns in 2 hours. Their divine senses were unparalleled, making even the sun and moon lose their splendor. However, even though these elders were the Jiang clan's supreme elders, in front of the three old monsters who had lived for more than 4,000 years, they were simply not enough. The difference could be said to be too great. Their weapons had just been shot out when they were blocked by the tangible divine senses, shattering inch by inch and turning into flying ashes. It was truly like striking a rock with an egg. They couldn't even withstand a single blow. These three living corpses, not far away, the 13 Saint Master-level characters all sucked in a breath of cold air. People who had lived for more than 4,000 years were indeed extremely terrifying and powerful. They weren't like the three of them who were modest at all. These three living corpses could definitely threaten them. Even though their bodies had decayed, the power of their divine senses was as vast as the ocean. Who could stop them? The Jiang clan's elders held hands. Their entire bodies surged with essence energy, almost as if they were burning. They walked forward and jointly took out dozens of divine weapons, shooting them out of the formation patterns. The light of a firefly dares to compete with the brilliance of the moon? One of them sneered and attacked alone. His entire body was scarlet like blood, and his powerful divine sense shot out like a sea of blood. The underground world was dyed red. Bang! He alone obliterated the divine weapons that the Jiang clan's elders had unleashed with all their strength, turning them into flying ashes. At the same time, an unparalleled divine sense attack. The sea of divine sense actually rushed in through the incomplete formation patterns like a blood-colored butcher's knife. Pooh, pooh, 6 elders were pierced by the blood-colored divine sense one after another. They were torn apart on the spot, and their bones and flesh were smashed into pieces. They died tragically on the spot. These were all great figures of the Jiang clan, but under the divine sense of an old monster who hadn't died for 4,000 years, they were like newborn babies. They couldn't even withstand a single blow. Buzz! Jiang Yun's expression changed, and he quickly moved. He stretched out a large hand and grabbed the other elders back. Otherwise, none of them would be able to survive. Even so, it was still a bit too late. The blood-colored divine sense was as fast as lightning, and it pierced through the bodies of 2 more elders, turning them into a pool of blood. How could they resist this? The walking dead of the same generation as Jiang Taishu, although their bodies were weak, their divine senses were enough to dominate the eastern wilderness. How many people could suppress them? Outside the arena, the 13 powerful figures felt a chill in their hearts. They became more and more alert, guarding against the 3 old monsters who were shockingly old. 4,000 years ago, these 3 walking dead were already powerful figures. After such a long time, even though they couldn't cultivate their bodies, their divine sense was still shocking. No wonder they are the powerful figures who entered the undying mountain and came out alive. Jiang Yun strode forward with a simple ancient tower above his head and a shining black metal halberd in his hand, preventing the 3 old monsters from destroying the formation patterns. Little boy from the Jiang clan, are you courting death? When we were fighting with your Xian ancestor Jiang Taishu, who knows where your grandfather was? One of the old monsters sneered. However, they didn't stop. They didn't want to give Jiang Taishu too much time, so they kept obliterating the formation patterns with their divine senses. Jiang Yun waved the halberd and shook the ancient tower, attacking the 3 walking dead as fast as lightning. Chi, chi, chi. One divine sense after another entered the formation patterns. Although it was weakened and couldn't advance too far, it was still very terrifying. It enveloped Jiang Yun like a net of death. Under the black, red, and green killing intents, Jianghu felt as if he was struck by lightning. The ancient tower above his head was pierced, and the halberd in his hand was broken. He quickly retreated. What should they do? Who could stop the three old monsters? The people of the Jiang clan were almost in despair. Even though the Jiang clan was powerful, there was nothing they could do at this time. Who would have thought that even the eternal universe's sacred furnace would be restrained? Otherwise, once the great emperor's sacred weapon was taken out, nothing could stop it. No matter how powerful the invading enemies were, they would still have to die with grievances. We can't let them in. A group of old men from the Jiang clan risked their lives and once again rushed forward, almost suicidal to stop them. Unfortunately, these people's courage was commendable, but they really couldn't compare to the old monsters who had lived for 4,000 years. Even if some of them were the Jiang clan's supreme elders, they were still not enough. Pooh, more than a dozen figures were beaten into meat paste by the three old monsters. All of them were killed in one strike. The difference in strength was too great, like a natural chasm. Even a grain of rice can emit light? One of the old monsters sneered. A green light shot out from his glabella, piercing through old men one after another, killing them. Jiang Taishu, I will exterminate your descendants and let your bloodline end here. The three zombies continued to attack. Come back! Jiang shouted at the others and made them retreat to the front of the dragon transformation pool. In front of the incomplete Great Emperor's formation patterns, there was a pile of blood paste on the ground. These were the corpses of the Jiang clan's elders. They had been all-powerful for a lifetime, but in their later years, they had protected their ancestors, yet they had ended up like this. It hadn't been a long time, but many important figures of the Jiang clan had died. There wasn't a single person from the Jiang clan who wasn't sad. The three terrifying zombies obliterated the innate patterns one after another. At this speed, it wouldn't even take 4 hours. Among the three zombies outside, who dares to fight me? Yi Fan suddenly spoke. He took large strides forward and only stopped when he was close to the old monster's attack range. Little baby that still smells of your mother's milk, even if your ancestor comes back to life, he wouldn't dare to speak to us like this. The three old monsters glanced at Yi Fan with disdain. They couldn't be bothered to attack him. Little friend, come back quickly. Jiang shouted. The other old men also transmitted their voices, wanting to forcefully bring him back. Let me try. Yi Fan transmitted his voice secretly and didn't retreat. In fact, his heart was beating like a drum. He really didn't have the slightest bit of confidence. He slowly pulled out the deity striking whip and held it in his hand, hoping that this whip could release its divine might. Those three corpses in front, if you're not convinced, come and attack me. I can drown you all with just a spit of my saliva. Yi Fan provoked. He stood in a safe area and didn't dare to take half a step out of the minefield. One of the old monsters snorted coldly. He didn't want to talk nonsense with such a junior and directly attacked. A black divine sense pierced through the void like a surging black tide. It was incomparably terrifying and arrived before Yi Fan in an instant. Buzz! Yi Fan brandished the deity striking whip and fiercely lashed forward. The wooden whip was simple and unadorned, no different from an ordinary wooden stick. However, it wasn't destroyed by the black tide. Moreover, it cleaved apart the black waves, causing the black consciousness that was surging over like an ocean to roll back and even shatter a large part of it. However, this kind of power was too great. Even though it didn't hit Yi Fan's body, it still sent him flying. He was like a fallen leaf in the ocean, sent flying hundreds of meters away by the great waves and landed in front of the dragon transformation pond. However, he wasn't injured and only staggered a bit. On the other side, the old monster let out a strange cry and scurried out. His body was on the verge of collapse and he almost fell on his back. Everyone was shocked. How terrifying the three living corpses were. Everyone had seen it with their own eyes, but now they had suffered a great loss. The deity striking whip, it actually appeared? An old monster widened his eyes in shock. Yi Fan felt a headache. How did he know this was the deity striking whip? This weapon came from the other side of the universe and was brought over by the Qi practitioners of the Preqin dynasty. Could it be that he had seen it before and knew about its secrets?